Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 13th edition of the TWitWoW monthly Q&A. Guys, I just doing a brief little kind of scroll over our questions. We got 67 questions this month. Are you hyped, John?
Oh, always, dude, always. When we get a mountain of questions like that, everybody take a deep seat because for the next few hours, your lives belong to us. So 67 questions this month, not bad. And partner, let's not make any more haste. Let's get right into these.
Yeah, and you know what? Because it is the 13th, it's probably worth noting that I guess that this, not today, but in 2 days on the 29th, is going to be the 1-year anniversary of us starting these Q&As.
That's crazy to think that in 2 days, 1 year will have passed since we introduced this kind of content to the channel. It's just unreal to me.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, we talked about it last month, about it was our 12th Q&A, but that's like saying that the first WrestleMania was the 1-year anniversary of WrestleMania. It just doesn't work.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it does feel pretty weird.
So, all right, guys, let's get into this, I guess. We've got 67 questions, and the first 4 were literally asked during our Q&A during June. So, like, while we were answering June questions, Sal, good old Salvador Salcido, who is in chat, asked 4 July questions. So let's start with those. And the first question is, are you answering no to this question?
Yes.
But you didn't.
And that's where we get the tongue-tied, and I'm not going to spend 10 minutes untangling my tongue. So yes and no, covering all my bases. What about you, Ashton? What's your answer to this question?
My answer is, I don't wanna.
There you go. Let's move on.
Okay. Let me just fix something real quick here with our volume. And there we go. And our second question from Sal, what is the best movie you've seen so far in 2017?
We watched Whiplash together this year, right?
Well, I mean, if we're counting all the movies that we've seen this year, then yes, but I think he's asking more like movies that actually came out this year.
Movies that came out this year.
And if that's the case, I think my answer is probably either Wonder Woman or Guardians, but honestly, I would probably go with Wonder Woman right now.
I'd go with Wonder Woman right now, too, if we're going in the context of releases this year.
But if we're going movies that we've seen this year, regardless of release date, I mean, if you're giving the answer Whiplash, I'm giving the answer Whiplash because it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. So, yeah.
Fucking cinematic masterpiece. I'd have sex with that movie if I could. That was so good. So, yeah. Whiplash and Wonder Woman for me, for sure. Just depending on however he was coming at that question. But, yeah, definitely 2 great movies.
Unfortunately, we have not seen Spider-Man Homecoming yet. And yeah, so we're going to, but right now my answer for 2017 releases is Wonder Woman. So next question from Sal, do you have any favorite meals or recipes from childhood that you still enjoy to this day?
How about you go first on this one?
Dude, from the time I was a child until now, I've eaten the most simple shit, like grilled cheese and tomato soup, macaroni and cheese, hamburger helper. So if those count, then yes. But if not, then I have no clue.
You know, my grandmother used to make this type of pasta called ioia, and it was like it's like the dry spaghetti. So it's not like this like red sauce or green sauce, but I think it's like butter and garlic and stuff like that. And it's so fucking good. I haven't had a dish in so long, and I'm guessing the way that she makes it will probably give me stomach problems today. But I still have very fond memories. It was one of my favorite dishes. So yeah, I would say that ioia, a very delicious type of pasta. Because I grew up, you know, I do have a very Italian family, and I got to experience that side of the culture, you know, all the good food, and that was a big part of it. So yeah, I adore that. So that's my answer. And I guess, like you said, you ate the most basic shit, so you really don't have an answer for this?
I mean, unless you count those basic things, then not really, no.
All right, well, then I guess we can move on.
All right, our fourth and final question from Sal is for me and me only. And he said, I know nothing about sports, so what are your top 5 all-time NFL players? Okay, So this is difficult for me because I've only been following the NFL for a little over a decade. It's not like I've been around for the entirety of its existence. But based on lore and legend and numbers that I've seen, I would say Jerry Rice has got to be up there. Deion Sanders, Lawrence Taylor. I know I feel like I'm speaking Greek to most of our audience right now, but shit. So those are three. Peyton Manning is definitely one of the best, even though he's not like, athletic. He's still one of the best NFL players of all time. And as my fifth, God, I don't want to pick a running back because running back is such a lame position, but I guess Ronnie Lott. That's a pretty easy answer. So there you go. Those are my five. So I guess we can move on. We have 4 questions from Hypothesis. And question, these are all for both of us. First question is, should WWE implement Bray Wyatt's WrestleMania losing streak as build up to a storyline where he is a babyface?
I'm intrigued by that idea simply because I really don't know what else there is for Bray Wyatt to do with the current character and his current presentation. So that's something I wouldn't be opposed to. And I think it could especially work if he was bring down the machine Bray Wyatt. Like, oh, I'm leading all these people and I'm going to conquer the one thing I haven't conquered, and that's winning at a WrestleMania. And I would want it to be against an actual credible opponent. So him actually winning, it isn't just a number, but it's a quality opponent behind it. So yeah, I do think that's a viable path to take. I just think he would have to be, again, the bring down the machine kind of baby face, and it would be an opponent that was really emblematic of what the machine produces for my money. So I mean, in an ideal world, right, it would be somebody like a Roman Reigns or something like that, but obviously we'd have to go another route. But yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. What about you, Ashton?
I mean, really, a babyface Bray versus a heel Roman would be great.
Yeah, that just sounds fascinating to me. So yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's really I don't really have anything to add to that. You pretty much nailed it. I mean, would it help necessarily for them to do that? I don't even know. Like, because at this point, Bray just feels like such a lost cause that if the WrestleMania losing streak was like his actual only problem and he still won a lot otherwise, then it might be worth a storyline. But he's just kind of a loser in general, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I can't really argue with any of your points because it's true. I mean, that's why, again, I at least do appreciate that they didn't do 50-50 booking with his feud with Rollins recently, and he actually won 2 straight. And maybe he'll even beat Balor in their first match. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Wyatt's just lost all credibility to me that maybe him turning babyface and starting fresh would get a lot of people back on board. I mean, I'm already kind of curious about it, even thinking about it aloud here in this space. So, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, for the time being, he just has no credibility whatsoever.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, second question from Hypothesis. If WWE continues after The Rock hosted WrestleMania 27, Hogan hosted 30, and New Day hosted 33, who should host WrestleMania 36? My answer is Hogan again, baby.
Yeah, bring him back. I mean, honestly, at that point, I don't know if either the controversy will have blown over, or knowing Hogan, he'll have gotten himself a new controversy, but maybe it's actually a controversy that WWE could spin to their advantage. So yeah, I'd say Hogan. Hell, maybe you get Austin back in there for a payday. Who else? Yeah, well, honestly, I'd have to see where he is in his life, but maybe like Jake Roberts would be interesting, because I know he's still going through his stuff. Hell, if you were going to bring Hogan, I'd add a little twist. Maybe do the whole NWO hosting WrestleMania, because you just did a 3-man faction in the New Day recently at 33. So if Scott Hall's good and Kevin Nash is good, why not just have the NWO hosting WrestleMania? That could be, fun, a few backstage segments. So yeah, I'll agree with you on Hogan, but I'll up the ante and I'll say the entire NWO, since we've seen a multi-person entity host WrestleMania very recently in the New Day.
That fits. Third question from Hypothesis: should WWE bring back the King of the Ring pay-per-view and make it where the road to SummerSlam begins?
I guess I'll go first on this one. I've toyed with that idea in the past, even like long before this question was posed, because I was a fan of the King of the Ring growing up. And I'm not talking about the King of the Ring that they do where it's like one night, one winner. No, I'm talking the legit King of the Ring tournament where you had several weeks of TV and then the actual pay-per-view. And I loved what they did the year Brock won it. You know, where they had that same style of tournament, but then the winner gets a title shot at SummerSlam. I always thought that should have been the new standard prize going forward, because if you're the King of the Ring, that means you're the best in the ring. So you should be able to vie for the title that really does say you're the best. So yeah, actually, I'm very open to that idea, but I think there would have to be commitment. I would have tournament matches, not just on Raw, not just on SmackDown. I'd even get NXT involved just to really kind of make it interesting. And I would make it this massive tournament. And yeah, winner gets a title shot, either WWE or Universal. And that would be particularly if an NXT guy wins at SummerSlam. And yeah, just make it a big production. I absolutely would do that.
Oh, man, I really do appreciate your optimism, but my answer is no. And it's not even because I don't like King of the Ring or anything like that. It's because the King of the Ring is just meaningless at this point. It's one of those things where previously in, 1987 and 91 and then the 96 King of the Ring where Austin won, it's not so much about somebody winning and then all of a sudden like that raises their profile and makes them a big deal. It's about the WWE using the King of the Ring as a vehicle to push somebody that they were already planning to push. So I don't think the King of the Ring is necessary at this point. I think it is one of those situations where if we do get King of the Ring again, it'll just be another situation like Sheamus or Wade Barrett, where they win and then we get expectations for them and then they do nothing anyway. And it's just another way for the WWE to disappoint their fans. So I'm going to say no, I don't want King of the Ring back.
And that's fair enough. All right, let's move on to our next question.
Fourth and final question from Hypothesis. Is it weird that my maternal grandparents had a bigger age gap than Del Rio and Paige?
I mean, here's what I'm going to say to that very simply, and that's why, like, I am a bit iffy on the Paige Del Rio situation, but I haven't really been very vocal about it, nor am I going to be here. I think, look, as long as you are a consenting adult, so I mean, in most states that would be 18 in this country, I don't even care if you're with like somebody that's like 35 or 40. Man, I find it a bit odd, sure, but if you're cognizant of what you're doing, why should I give a shit? You know, you and I were kind of having a similar conversation about that. I mean, not directly related to this, but about, this whole idea of living and making meaning out of life and dying. And if somebody's going to do that, I don't think that's weird. And especially if it's a healthy relationship, which I think is the most important thing, are both parties treating each other with respect, basic human decency, etc. Yes. Well, then mind your own fucking business. That's really all that matters. So, no, I don't think it's weird at all. I think people are going to do what they feel comfortable doing. And again, as long as both parties meet the prerequisites that I've laid forward, I don't see anything wrong with it, even if I myself wouldn't partake in it. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the thing with Paige and Del Rio is that their relationship isn't an unstable one because of their age difference. Their relationship is unstable because it's two unstable people in a relationship with each other.
Right.
We knew that about them before they got into a relationship. Like, we've always, or at least for a while now, known that Paige is a little off kilter, and we've known for a little while now that Del Rio is a piece of shit. So those two people in a relationship with each other, regardless of age, they could have both been 35 years old and it wouldn't have mattered because they're both just unstable people, and them entering in a relationship with each other was inevitably going to end up in some kind of disaster. So to me, age isn't as relevant as just the people in the relationship as individuals being compatible with each other.
Right. And that I could certainly agree with. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So that's my answer to that question. And we can move on. Up next, we've got 4 questions from Races Fan Rocks 4. First question is for both of us. We're all in a race across the country, and our cars run on blood, like in the movie Blood Drive. What would your vehicle be? I get a 72 Pontiac GTO.
Oh man, I am not a car enthusiast at all.
Well,
Are
here's
you?
my answer.
Yeah.
I'm getting a Tesla because you're not pricking my arm and giving me taking blood from me to make a car go when electric cars are an option. So screw off.
You know what? I'll double down on that. Nobody's taking my blood. Now, granted, if I was in control and I could take blood from others, I would take a real blood guzzler. Any car that uses up a lot of stuff, because seeing Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley, and other people that I hate just suffering in agony sounds hilarious. So what's a real gas guzzling vehicle that we could substitute gas for blood here?
A Hummer?
There you go. If I'm the one controlling the blood supplies, a Hummer, and I'm going to tie Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley, who else? Santino. I'll drag his like scruffy ass. Let's see who else. Del Rio. Got to see him suffer, and a few other people, and they'll like pump my Hummer there and kind of give it energy. If I'm the one that has to give the blood, well, fuck you. Electric cars are a thing. To your point, so that's my answer to that.
Yay!
All right, next question.
Next question from Racist Fan Rocks. Top 5 tag teams or singles wrestlers that you guys want in the temple for season 4.
Oh, in the temple.
Oh, God. Number 1 answer for me is Emma.
Yeah, definitely. Emma would be great. Second choice?
Ray LaPon, a.k.a. Leo Kruger, Adam Rose, Krugar, whatever you want to call him. I want him in the temple.
Okay.
Will Ospreay.
Yes.
Jimmy Havoc.
Oh, he'd be perfect. He would absolutely be perfect.
And for my 5th and final answer, how about... Oh, God, this is so difficult. Screw it. I know she's in the Mae Young Classic, but still I want Toni Storm in the temple.
All right. For me, I would say Wade Barrett, Marty Scurll. I love me some Scurll. Who else? See, because the thing is with Lucha, if you're going to do a tag team, it would have to be a trio. Let me ask you something, Ash, and you can help me out with this one, because we already know that Jeremiah Crane's in the temple. Who are those 2 guys he teams with in PWG?
Oh, OI4K, Ohio's for Killers, Dave and Jake Christ.
Yeah, Dave and Jake Christ, I'd have them come. This way they could do the trios division with Jeremiah once all of his stuff with Mill.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's great.
So Wade, Marty, the Chris brothers, which I guess that would count as 2 entities, so that's 4.
No, that's a tag team. He said singles or tag teams.
Okay, so yeah, that's still 3. I have to agree with you about Emma. I hate to piggyback answers, but yeah, she'd be fantastic. And honestly, Cesaro, because he ain't doing shit in WWE, and I'd love to see him just deadlift people. I'd love to see him in a bout with Matanza. So yeah, Cesaro would be my final guy.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. I ended up not picking any tag teams, but that's mostly because I can't think of any indie tag teams that I really want in the temple.
Right.
Yeah, so. All right. Third question for Races Fan Rocks is for me, and I'm supposed to book John versus James in a dildo death match in CZW.
Oh, have fun with this.
Well, first of all, if I'm a booker, I don't actually determine the actual actions in the match. That still comes down to the performers and the agent working the match. But I guess since I'm booking, I have to just choose who wins. And in this case, I think James wins by just shoving a dildo up John's butt.
I mean, if that's really what's happening here, aren't we all winners in the end? We can move on to our next question.
The 4th and final question from Racist Fan Rocks. As a wrestling fan, do you think we should care about the wrestlers' opinions on politics and religion?
It's funny that the question's that specific because, to me, like, I'm not saying you should disregard all opinions, but I think with them, like, you shouldn't hold them up to a pedestal. Like if I found out that Johnny Mundo voted for Trump, I mean, I'll be honest, given my political orientation, I would feel a certain way, but would I hold that against him? No, because that's not what my relationship is to him. My relationship is as a consumer, you know, watching him perform and do what he does, and that's what I love him for. So, I mean, yeah, you know, I guess you could be mindful of it and put some stock in it, I guess, especially if it aligns with your politics. But ultimately, I wouldn't sweat it. You know, again, despite the grandeur and everything else, there are people like the rest of us trying to navigate this fucking dust rock we call a planet. So there you go. That's my answer on that. I personally wouldn't give a damn, but it's whatever. What about you? How do you feel about it?
I mean, the question is, should we care? And the answer to that is no, but I still think we probably would care.
Yeah, probably.
Oh God, I accidentally skipped a Racist Fan Rocks question. That was actually our first question from Zane Banks. So apologies for getting those mixed up, but let's still, I mean, still, as far as Zane Banks' question goes, we'll get back to Racist Fan Rocks next. Yeah, I mean, the question is, should we care? And I don't think we should, but it's hard to just completely compartmentalize to the degree that you don't even acknowledge a performer's views while they're performing. Like John said, if you know, for example, his example was if Johnny Mundo voted for Trump or something like that, and I could understand why it would be hard to kind of get past that, but I think we would manage to. But really what that kind of comes down to, I think, is confirmation bias. Because, like, if you find out that somebody you already really, really love has some very sort of opposite political views to you, you might be able to get past it easier. But if somebody that you already hate, so, for example, if you hate Big Cass and you find out he voted for Trump and he's a big Trump supporter, that might make you double down on hating Cass. Like, it's a confirmation bias thing. Like, oh, I knew I didn't like that prick. But if it's someone you already like, I don't think it'll really affect you that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was pretty well articulated. It just, to me, the whole thing's kind of a mess. And the funny thing is, like, I would consider myself, like, outside of here, a very political person, but I think there's always a time and a place for it. And especially when I say there is a time and a place, I mean when the stuff that you do or the reactions you have actually matter. Like, if I was to have an adverse reaction to Mundo hypothetically being a Trump supporter, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference for anything, right? So, like, I don't really see the point. Whereas, like, if one of my local constituents, like if a representative of mine had some very radical views, like they were hiding a fucking Klan's robe in their closet, like, yeah, I'm going to make hell about it because that actually matters. So, yeah, I think really for me, it comes down to picking your battles. I am not going to expend energy hating somebody or whatever if they have political views contrary to mine, especially when it doesn't really have any grand significance. When Mundo's a wrestler, he's not a politician or a cop or anybody with any actual power. So yeah, I wouldn't really regard it, but I do agree with everything you're saying. I think that was very well articulated. I got nothing else to add, so we can move on.
Okay, well, we're kind of backtracking a little bit. Our fourth and final question from Racist Fan Rocks is, what band do you think is going to have a song for NXT Brooklyn 3? And he said that he thinks Falling in Reverse or We Came as Romans. So kind of interesting because I think we already do have at least one theme song for TakeOver Brooklyn 3, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I do know there was one. I forget the name of it.
I'm looking it up. I'm Googling. Guys, I'm Googling. The theme songs that we've gotten, actually, holy shit, we've gotten 3. Bleeding in the Blur by Code Orange, Poison Pens by Creeper, and No Fear by Philaday featuring Saba Abraha and Tate Kobang.
I see. So they're asking what song we think is going to be on a takeover or what? What was the nature of the question again?
I mean, he did specifically say, what band do you think is going to have a song for NXT Brooklyn 3?
Oh, gee, I wouldn't
but
even
we already know the answer to that. So maybe let's just, like, predict what band is going to have a song for whatever the next takeover is after Brooklyn 3.
Imagine Dragons to me is always a safe bet because
there you go. I'm going to say it's not a band, but I'm going to say Khalid because he has a song out now called Location and it's hot as hell. And NXT seems to get like one hip hop song, one hard rock song, and one poppier song for their takeovers. And I think that's going to be the poppier song.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I like both of our choices. I guess we can move on.
All right. Oh my god. And all right, so we already answered Zane Banks's first question regarding wrestlers with their politics and religion and stuff like that. Second, though, and final question, because he only asked two questions from Zane Banks. What do you think about WWE not giving Sasha Banks a big win at pay-per-view? Are they treating her like Natalya in the sense that she's just there to elevate her opponent since she pretty much has chemistry with everyone, and they're not really giving her like a big moment on a pay-per-view? And then he added, for me, she's a star, but WWE isn't letting her shine. To me, I think it's because she's been a babyface for pretty much her entire time on the main roster. I think when she does inevitably turn heel, she's going to start picking up big wins at pay-per-views pretty consistently.
Yeah, I agree with you. And with all due respect to the question, like I don't want to come off as like a jackass with my answer here, but I do think it comes down partially to perspective, because I find that very interesting, right? Like how he perceives like what the word star means when Natalya has never main evented. I mean, she's had main event segments because I remember a contract signing her and Charlotte had, but she never had like a main event match on a Raw or a SmackDown to my knowledge. Sure as hell never main evented a pay-per-view because Sasha and Charlotte were the first to do that. And even if you were to say, oh, well, that's mainly because of, Charlotte, I mean, Sasha was still a part of that at the end of the day. So I think just her getting to be a part of that stuff, and I think she's a 3-time. Yeah, she is a 3-time because she keeps saying she's going to be a 4-time women's champion. Natalya only had one forgettable reign with the Divas Championship. So I do think Sasha's a star. I just think the matter is she's going to be an even bigger star when she turns heel to Ashton's point. I just think it really is all a matter of perspective and how you look at what makes a person a star or not. Yeah, she may be elevating other people because, I mean, it turns out this really was Bayley's story most recently, and she beat Sasha to get there. But I think Sasha's time is the furthest thing from over. I think she still has plenty to give and plenty to do. So, yeah, I wouldn't have any worries about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. All right. Up next, 4 questions from Rotten Butter. And the first question, he's going to ask this every month, and he has for the last 2 or 3 months. What cool shit have you watched, seen, heard, etc. this month?
Well, we just started the latest season of Wentworth, which is an infinitely superior version to Orange is the New Black. We're 2 episodes in, and it's just freaking amazing. So I started that with the family. We finished Glow. Glow is awesome, guys. I can talk about it with you now.
We have a Glow specific question later, so save it for that.
Okay. But yeah, I did watch that. As far as reading, I am so behind on my reading. I think this Saturday I'm going to catch up on a lot of that. But, I'm always reading that technical, boring stuff. You guys know the kind of stuff I read. Anime, still continuing. Got through a little bit more of My Hero Academia. Still haven't touched Attack on Titan Season 2, but I'm very excited for that. You and we watched the Power Rangers movie together this month.
Yeah, we did. That was so good. We also got majorly caught up on the DC universe, the DC expanded universe, I think it's called, in that we watched Batman versus Superman and Wonder Woman, and we've been catching up on The Flash, although we still haven't finished season 1.
Oh, and one more big thing, and there's other stuff, but I want to keep this as succinct as possible, otherwise we'd be here all day. Another big thing that I watched is going to come up later in Q&A, thanks to everybody's favorite, Brandon Best. I watched the first season of 13 Reasons Why on Netflix.
Oh, God, why?
Because he asked a Q&A question, and we're the most faithful, dedicated podcast on the web.
Wait. You watched an entire season of a TV show because of a Q&A question?
Yes. Yes, I did. Because we're the most dedicated
I'm just going to put it out there right now. I hope nobody ever expects me to go to that extent for a Q&A question, because
which is why I think he asked me specifically, because I think he knew between the two of us I would be that guy. And yeah, Brandon, I did it for you, and I will be answering your question, and believe me, I've got a lot to say about it. So yeah, that was the last big thing I watched this month, and oh boy. So
well, congratulations on opening up that Pandora's box.
Yeah, but again, That's dedication right there. What can I tell you? So what about you, Ashton? Because I know the stuff that we've watched together, but is there anything
You gotta realize though, John, when you and I aren't watching shit together, I don't watch anything on my own unless it's like YouTube content that I know you're not interested in. And at this point, there's hardly even any of that anymore. Like, I would say that the type of YouTube video I've watched most in the last month is just PC related, like PC parts, laptop reviews, all that kind of shit. Because I just got my new laptop. I don't know if it was this past month or just earlier this month, but like, yeah, that's been my life for the last month. Between that and well, he did ask. It was like, what have you read, watched, or played? So I'm gonna also say that John and I have also been playing speedrunners, which is amazing and fun and addictive to the point of like almost like unhealth kind of addicting. It's really really fun, right, John?
Absolutely. Yeah, you get hours and hours.
But then I also wanted to say, finally, I bought this game 2 years ago when my laptop couldn't handle it, and I tried playing it, and it crashed my laptop. And then I got a desktop, and because it was just completely it was out of commission basically until very very recently. I wasn't even able to use the new desktop. And when I finally did get to use the new desktop, it was just so damn out of the way that I never really used it. So then I finally got this new laptop. And finally now on this new laptop, I, for the first time ever, was able to play Ark Survival Evolved. Like, it is the most anticipated game for me of all time because I bought it 2 years ago when it was on sale and haven't been able to play it since until like last week when I was finally able to open it up and play it. And as it turns out, this laptop plays it reasonably well. It's a reasonable frame. Like, it's not murdering the game. Like, I can't turn all of the graphics and shaders and shit all the way up to like maximum settings and get 60 FPS or anything. But I'll be damned if I can't get playable frame rates at reasonable graphics quality. And it's wonderful. And granted, it did end up crashing on me after like an hour of gameplay, but that's because it ran out of memory. And I'm hopefully getting a RAM upgrade by the end of August. So I should be able to play Ark Survival Evolved whenever I want within the next month and a half or so. So I'm very excited about that. And I know that's not a new game. It's been out for a while, but it's just the first time I've actually been able to play it because of how graphically demanding the damn thing is.
Well, yeah, I was very happy for you that you finally got to play that game. So is there anything else you want to air out, or can we move on to our next question?
Well, another game that John actually introduced me to that I checked out was Jotun.
That's right. I still haven't played that myself, so you're the only one that's played it.
That's actually hilarious. So John hasn't played it, even though he introduced me to it. I played it for like 45 minutes, and it's okay. It's one of those games where I feel like you really need multiplayer to get the full experience. So I'm sure John will eventually check it out because I played it up until I got to I beat the first boss in the game pretty easy. Once I got to the second boss, I couldn't beat it. So I ended up rage quitting. So that was the last time I touched that game, and that was like a week or two ago. And then let me just pull up my Steam. And yeah, that's it. Those are all the games that I played this month. Although I did start emulating again, and I got the Dolphin emulator for Wii and GameCube games. And I played some Super Mario Sunshine and some Super Smash Brothers Melee. God, I really need a USB controller for my laptop so that I can actually properly play Smash, because that game is my lifeblood. And speaking of Smash, because it is my lifeblood, and because I was so desperate to get the taste of Smash, I also downloaded and installed Super Smash Flash 2, which has been updated recently enough that now Falco and Isaac from Golden Sun are available characters to play in that game, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we played it together. It was all right. I think it's a better single player experience. I think it seems like.
Yeah, because the multiplayer, the latency is just obnoxious.
Yeah, multiplayer is garbage.
Yeah, you input anything, any kind of an action for your character to do, and he does it like a full second and a half later. It's so bad.
So yeah, I mean that's all the stuff, and again, I'm sure there was plenty more on both sides, but that's a good bulk of the
Well, I
stuff.
have an idea. Let me pull up our watch list and see what we've recently crossed out of it.
There you go.
Because we do have a watch list because it's really hard for us to keep track of shit that we like to watch. Let's see. Oh man. Well, I don't think we watched any of those shows. We have been watching Dragon Ball Super, right?
Yeah, we watched like what, 2 or 3 more episodes.
Yeah.
And we didn't get too deep.
And then I was just like, you know what? I want to know where this goes. So on this past Saturday, I watched like 10, 15 minutes of episode 100 of Dragon Ball Super subbed for no reason whatsoever, just because I could and it was there and it was available and I wanted to. Let's see. We have watched recently. Yeah, we haven't crossed anything out of our watch list this month. Well, shit. I guess that's it then.
Yeah, so I guess we can move on to our next question.
Tavares, just watch the damn sub, please.
We're gonna break this poor boy because, like, he's just like, I want to talk to someone about it. Stop depriving me.
Listen, man, if you were willing to watch an entire season of a shitty Netflix show for one Q&A question, we really don't have any excuses left.
I know, dude. I've been game, and I feel like you've been game. It's just a matter of finding time to do it, which also really doesn't seem like that good of an excuse. But regardless, let's move on.
Okay. Second question from Rotten Butter. What are some of your favorite turns in wrestling, both face to heel and heel to face? You want me to go first?
Oh, I thought he said terms, so obviously the first answer was going to be Mark, but no, turns.
Turns. Turns.
You go first then.
Oh my god. Well, my favorite face turn, possibly of all time, is the Shield's face turn when they're like all in the ring with Jerry Lawler and I want to say Kane, and they're all facing Jerry Lawler like they're about to attack him, and they all just simultaneously turn around and face Kane. That is an amazing moment, and like really that might be the last true face turn that we've had that wasn't over like a slow burn period of time.
Yeah, that face turn was very good.
Oh
what about, like, do you have any heel to or face to heel turns that you want to mention, or was that the only answer you wanted to put out there?
God. Well, oh man. Well, favorite heel turn in recent memory is Tommaso Ciampa, obviously.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, and you know what? Even though this is basically a face turn, Kevin Owens basically forcing Chris Jericho to turn face during the Festival of Friendship.
How come my name's on this?
That was such a good delivery. God, I love Jericho.
For me, I'm gonna go both kind of classical, in terms of my era, and more contemporary. I thought Brock's heel turn, back to being a heel when he won the title at WrestleMania 19, then lost it back to Kurt Angle at Vengeance. I believe that was 2003, and then turning heel on Angle, and then they do their whole summer feud. I thought that heel turn was great because he threw Zach Gowen down a flight of stairs, so just gold. Kane being a heel in 0203 very early on in the run, where he's like choke slamming everybody, choke slam Bischoff off a stage, and he set Jim Ross on fire because you need to feel my pain.
Peeking. You're peeking, brother. You're peeking. The mic away from your mouth.
All right, but yeah, Kane just being all, you need to feel my pain, and all emo and hurting, that was pretty great. When I think about face turns, honestly, I actually liked Randy Orton's face turn, like on Legacy, when it seemed like they were going to turn on him, and Legacy were originally supposed to be the babyfaces, but the crowd was so behind Orton at that time, and they just like ditches them in a tag match, and then he RKO's DiBiase on the floor. I thought that was pretty good. Seth's face turn. Yeah,
I was going to say, can we call Roman Reigns over the Braun Strowman feud a heel turn?
No, I can't in good conscience because I don't think they think it's a heel turn.
Well, okay, then can we call Braun Strowman over the Roman Reigns feud a face turn?
There you go. Yeah, that I think definitely works. And yeah, that's a great face turn as well. See, I think I listed enough. I'm good on that. Yeah. Oh, and one more. I'd be remiss if I did not mention one of the best heel turns ever to me. Eddie Guerrero's heel turn on Mysterio was so well done. I remember being a kid watching that shit and my heart just broke in half. And then, of course, who could forget the infamous promo afterwards? Does this make you happy, Ray? Like, so good. So, yeah, those are all the heel face turns. Oh, and Batista going heel was also just fucking
Here's
cool.
arguably the most underrated heel turn of the last few years, Emma.
Yes, where she
Talk about saving someone's career.
Absolutely.
Well, temporarily, kind of. It saved her NXT career, only for her to get called up, injured, and lose her spot again.
I know. She'll probably never really get that break in WWE, which is a shame because she's the most talented female in there.
Here's to hoping she gets future endeavored soon so we can have her in Lucha Underground!
Or she just decides, wow, they really killed my passion for pro wrestling, so I'm going to focus on Taste of Tennille full time. Either way, though.
You know what? I would be okay with that, but I would still hope that Lucha Underground would be able to revitalize her passion for pro wrestling.
There you go. That's the spirit. But yeah, I think we gave a nice list on both sides, so we can move on to our next question.
Yeah, all right, man. Let's move on. Let's see. Rotten Butter, third question is what are some of your most hated movie sequels? I'll take this one first immediately because my easiest answer is the sequels to The Matrix are awful.
And for me, I even have an easy time with this too because this used to be my favorite movie of all time, the Butterfly Effect sequel. Had none of the emotional gravity of the original and really just fucking sucked. So much so that I think it was a straight to DVD release. Really should have been a straight to the garbage release because that's where it belonged. So yeah, that has got to be easily my most hated movie sequel because you're talking about that was a movie I adored for years and they just totally screwed the pooch on it. So yeah, Butterfly Effect 2 for sure.
Yeah, to me, The Matrix, Revolutions, and Reloaded were just highly disappointing because The Matrix, like the original Matrix, was freaking incredible. But then I'd say, arguably, in my opinion, the most ridiculous, stupid, just the worst movie sequel of all time, and it's a sequel to an actually decent movie, too, is The Son of the Mask.
Oh, God, I heard that was awful. You still there?
What was that, John?
I said I heard that was awful, and then you just kind of went silent, so I asked if you were still there.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. I thought you were going to have more to say. No. So I guess I can't think of many more. I'm sure there are tons more, but just off the top of my head, that's all I can think of. Those are the glaring problems. Are really the Matrix sequels just killed me. And you know what? People are talking about like Alien sequels and shit like that, but I don't even know because I haven't seen anything past Aliens. So we'll maybe have an opinion on that in a few months when we get around to, finishing out the Alien franchise because we do want to watch Covenant and we don't want to watch Covenant without finishing the rest of it. So fourth and final question from Rotten Butter. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
High. So I honestly don't know. So I was going to say like a high velocity.
I mean, really, it depends on if you're talking about a European swallow or an African swallow. But assuming you're talking about a European swallow, it's roughly 11 meters per second or 24 miles per hour.
How is this not an Ashton-specific question? Regardless, you gave the substantive answer here, so I guess we can move on.
No, it's a freaking Monty Python reference, dude.
And see, I was never big on the Monty Python catches. Like, there were only like...
Neither was I, but I Googled it.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 Monty Python sketches that I actually liked, because they were philosophy-based, so there you go. But, what's our next question?
We have 4 questions from Ella. Ella says stuff on Twitter.
Hooray!
First one, thoughts on racism towards white people?
God. There's always one question. There's always one question that fucking gets me in trouble. Because it's always this fucking shit every time. We can never have a peaceful Q&A where I don't out myself as an anarcho-commune. No, it's always fucking something. Look, racism towards white people doesn't exist, and the fucking
Yes, it
alt-righters.
does.
No, it doesn't.
Oh my God.
And the idea.
Okay, so I guess that these Tumblrinas that will literally discredit any straight white male because he's a straight white male, no matter what substance he brings, isn't racism?
No, it's not racism. White
So
racism.
what do you call it? What is okay? So prejudice.
Prejudice would be more appropriate. I would.
Okay, so it's really not even a matter of you denying that people can be prejudiced against white people. You just say it's not racism, which I get that. I can understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, like all these fucking no, because it just I should have remembered.
I don't understand how that's not racism though, because isn't racism just saying that anybody of a certain race is lesser?
See, and to me, like, and oh God, I fucking hate these questions.
Like racism is literally defined as prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior.
See, and given the people that I've conversed with and stuff like that over the years, like I think racism to me goes much deeper than that. I don't just purely operate on dictionary definitions. I think racism is just as much a question of power as it is an attitude. In fact, yeah, that reminds me of a Stokely Carmichael quote where he says, if a man wants to lynch me, that's his problem. If a man has the power to lynch me, that's my problem. Racism is a question of power. And that's how I've always equated racism, is where are the power dynamics? So I look at the police, for example, when we look at all the black shootings, as like a racist institution. And that's why white racism I find to be oxymoronic, because this is kind of a, white supremacist society on a certain level, given, its origins, how we got all the power and this and that, which is why I kind of laugh at all the alt-righters that are like, oh, white genocide. It's not even a fucking thing. You're all stupid. So to answer Ella's question, who this isn't her fault, I'm sure she was just very curious because you hear a lot about white racism today from those sects. I don't think it exists because I equate it more with exertions of power, with institutions of power, and whites have all the power. So yeah, white racism to me is not a thing. But again, I would accept prejudice because that to me is more of an attitude, more of a disposition, and people could absolutely have that towards anybody of any race, age, gender, whatever.
Like to me, I just go by the dictionary definition, and it says that it's just prejudice or discrimination against a person because they're a specific race. And that being said, that definition means racism against white people is a thing, because white people do get discriminated against by people who think that white people's opinions don't matter because they're white.
Yeah, I think Cliff had the best response here that kind of echoes my sentiment. The prejudice towards white people is more of a response or payback after years of racism for over hundreds and thousands of years, and effects that we're still kind of feeling, at least in my view, and I know a lot of people would disagree, that we're feeling today. Which is why, again, maybe one Q&A, we won't get questions like this, because I feel like, yeah, it's always me kind of in the corner, and then there's like everything else. But yeah, I mean, that's the distinction I make, and I think Cliff definitely articulates my sentiments pretty well. So that's all I really want to say on this question, and unless there's anything you want to add, we can move on.
Yeah, I guess I kind of feel like, I mean, Cliff is saying, it's not exactly my race is superior to yours. It's your race did shit to our race, so F you. But to me, like, I don't necessarily, like, we've had this kind of conversation regarding the whole Pakistan versus Israel thing too. I don't think that people today that have done nothing in the way of offending or doing horrible things to other people should necessarily be punished for what their ancestors did.
And see, we use words like punishment, but if you're benefiting from the actions of your ancestors, I think that in its own way carries a kind of culpability. I mean, let me put it to you this way. I mean, hypothesis.
Oh, dude, I absolutely, I'm not trying to say that white privilege isn't a thing. I acknowledge that. But what I'm saying is, just because white privilege exists doesn't also mean then that white people should have to be punished somehow for their white privilege.
And yeah, and that's where it does get prickly, because I mean, first of all, not to correct,
because like it's not like people are going around being like, hey, you, have you done something nice for a white person today? Because if not, then you're not allowing them to exercise their white privilege. How dare you? It's like it's embedded into the society, and that's unfortunate. And I definitely think we should take steps to put everybody on a more equal footing and give people more equal opportunities. But I don't think that you should be going out of your way to discount or discourage or punish people with privilege simply for the fact that they have privilege.
No, and I think, again, and this is just coming from my experience, and everybody has different experiences, right? But I think with the people I talk to, like, for example, if I'm a white guy that tweets about Black Lives Matter and stuff, that's me. I mean, the term would be ally, right? We've got somebody that's an ally that's using their privilege to amplify the voices of people who their voice might not be so big in a society that doesn't benefit them. So I don't think it's gunning for everybody that has a white privilege. It's just like, what are you doing with that privilege to make a better world for those that don't have the privileges that you do? You know, and that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, Shay, Luna Corva in chat even said white privilege is a thing, but he thinks that all colored people, races, doesn't matter what your skin color is or your ethnicity, should all have the same privilege as white people to the extent that it just evens out.
Right.
So that's pretty much where I'm at as well. So anyway, up next, our second question from Ella. These are not getting any easier. Thoughts on the reputation autism has in today's society?
Oh, Jesus, why? Okay. Can I actually take this one first, please?
Sure.
Because, and again, I don't know what kind of trouble I'm going to get in. But I've been working with people with disabilities recently. You know this, Ashton, because I just got done my seminar recently. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't have autism. My disability is cerebral palsy. So I'm going to try, rather than my comments being autism specific, I think more general comments about disability would suffice to answer this. Because Ella, again, is pretty much asking about the attitude towards autism, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, because, like, here's the thing. If you go on to a, say, highly uncensored message board, whether it's 4chan or whatever, you're going to see people throwing around the word autist as an insult like it's a freaking egg on Halloween.
And see, and again, just circles I run with, I having the privilege to work with the colleagues that I've worked with and to write about the things that I've written about, I think there's something very insidious, that means like evil, sinister, bad, you know, about the current discourse on autism. Because, I mean, perfect example, right? My go-to example, we think about the anti-vaxxers. And what's their one main argument? Like, oh, if you do that, your child's going to get autism. And in this way, we postulate autism as something inherently negative, and I think that dehumanizes people that do have autism, who, in my mind, do have lives worth living and capabilities worth nurturing. So I don't like how we talk about disability, and particularly autism. In fact, I know, and I'm not watching this show, so nobody get any ideas, but I saw somebody who is, I believe, has autism, tweet about this this show called Atypical, and it has like this autistic main character, and I think it just completely like botches the discourse, because it almost makes it seem like, oh, what you mean autistic people, they do have feelings and dreams and this and that. Like, I don't know, we're people. I even say this a lot about myself with cerebral palsy. Like, just because I use crutches to traverse a certain space that you could with 2 functioning legs doesn't make me any less of an asshole. I'll probably still have very dickish opinions or be a dick to you 9 times out of 10. So me having a disability doesn't really say anything reflective of my moral status. Same thing with autism. You know, I don't think just because your child has autism, they're an angel, but conversely, I don't think they're this horrible thing that needs to die either or being taken care of. And I'm very uncomfortable as a man with cerebral palsy and who's kind of conversed more with people with disabilities, how negatively disability is portrayed. And then when it's quote unquote positive, it always seems fetishistic, like, oh, you're inspiring, or oh, you're so uplifting, or oh, you're a gift from God. And you know, like growing up, I kind of internalized that, right? Like disability is negative. I would never hang out really with other disabled kids until like middle school or high school, because I wanted to be seen as quote unquote normal. And I think vaccines, or these anti-vaxxers, are kind of capitalizing on that same line of thinking. I think we as a society have kind of socialized what normal is, what beauty is, what functioning is. and we postulate these different types of bodies like autistic people as abnormal or deviant or needing of correction. And there's just something deeply disturbing about that to me, especially when you look at some of the trends going on in society, you know, medically, scientifically, etc. And yeah, I think it's very harmful. I think autistic people are just as beautiful as any other kind of person, you know, disabled or otherwise. And I think the anti-vaxxers just need to shut their fucking mouth, because it doesn't help anybody. I mean, their claims are bogus anyway. I mean, let's just put that out there if that wasn't stressed enough. But I think that you try and use a disabled body as kind of a casualty for your cause is just deeply upsetting to me. And I think it's something that needs to be combated, because there's nothing wrong with autism. Rather, there's something wrong with a society that doesn't care about people with autism or disabilities in general. So I'm sorry for the long-winded response, but I've been—
No, dude, you know what, though? This is really your specialty in, like, your philosophical corner of the world, is like the ableism and that kind of stuff. So I feel like this falls more under your umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to be too long-winded, but I have been working in this scholarship lately. And again, I don't have autism, and I've never really written about autism specifically. I know one thinker who has, and I've been meaning to read her stuff, because she even talked about, like, oh, Sesame Street has a Muppet, like, with autism, but is that really doing enough? And what are we doing about, like, ableist violence? And, like, you know, because disabled people, it is a higher rate of unemployment. There isn't really a lot of accessibility. And then, of course, you figure the social taboos, like, you know, staring and, you know, certain types of language and stuff like that. And I know autism is a big part of that, and I can't speak for their experiences. So I just wanted to speak more generally and kind of make autism as part of that umbrella. But yeah, I think it's absolutely insidious, and it needs to be resisted on all fronts. So that's my answer to that. Really have nothing more to add, unless you want to throw in your 2 cents. We can move along.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is, I've actually known a few people in real life, not even on the computer. I mean, I've known a few people on the computer as well, but in real life even, who had autism and or Asperger's. I think Asperger's is just a form of autism, but I could be wrong about that. I'm very, very uneducated on this subject when it comes to science, but I have known some people with autism, and to my knowledge and in my experience, people who are autistic are still fully functioning people. They're just socially awkward.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They're not good at, like, catching on to social norms. A lot of them feel the need to overshare in certain situations. They're like over the top, like enthusiastic in situations where it's really inappropriate for that kind of reaction. You know, they're just highly, highly socially poorly adapted socially.
Right.
So honestly, I don't really understand why there's this gigantic horror. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't wish autism or Asperger's on anyone, and I don't think that it should be glorified either, but it's not the end of the world either. And honestly, even if getting an antivirus or some kind of other vaccine gave you a percent chance, even if it was a 10% chance, which is ridiculously high, getting that vaccine is still worth it, because then you're not getting whatever disease or virus the vaccine prevents. And like I said, autism, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world, whereas polio freaking could be the end of the world for you. So really, and the thing is, that was a big if, because at the end of the day, there's literally no scientific proof that vaccinations cause autism, and there is scientific proof that vaccinations don't cause autism. So again, it's a ridiculous claim that was perpetuated by Jenny McCarthy back in, like, I think like 07, 08, 09-ish, and it's literally caused tons of deaths since then in children, because their parents thought, oh, Oprah Winfrey, Jenny McCarthy, I can trust them for my health care, and believe them, and didn't get their kids vaccinated.
Yeah, and I just want to, like, just reiterate one more time before we move on, like, because I know, as you said, like, obviously polio and like all the things that being an anti-vaxxer could cause on a wider scale. that sucks more. But I think the only reason that cerebral palsy sucks or autism, quote unquote, sucks is because that's what our society has kind of ingrained us to believe when you look at what they've socialized and what they've categorized as normal compared to what they've categorized as like deviant or abnormal. And that is what I think. And that's really where my research entails. It's the kind of talk I gave recently, talking about disability on more of a socially constructed level. And I would like a society, they call it the capabilities approach, that rather than occluding, or excluding, if you prefer, autistic bodies or cerebral palsy or blah, 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 from spheres of civil society and from full participation, we direct our resources kind of tapping into their capabilities so they could live fully happy, quality, productive lives, rather than just saying, oh, they're autistic, they'll never know what a quality life is. They'll never know what a happy life is, which I think is bunk. I think that's bullshit. So yeah, I think we have to think more socially about disability than what we currently are, because trends are certainly kind of commanding that right now. And again, you won't find that any more than the whole anti-vaxxer discourse and the kind of words that they employ. So yeah, do the questions get any easier after this? What's next?
I think they do. Our third question from Ella: if there was a Lucha Underground Hall of Fame, who would be the first inductee? My answer: Mil Muertes.
Mil Muertes. My answer would have to be Prince Puma. But yeah, I mean, Mil, I think would be like right behind there. So yeah, Prince Puma is my answer. Let's just move right along. What's our next question from Ella?
Fourth and final question from Ella: should a group of genders be referred to as a gendai?
I'm going to say yes, because that's never going to happen, right? I mean, right? So gendai works. What about you?
I'm going to say a pack of genders should be referred to as a peck. It's a peck of genders.
Okay. Well, I hope she and her peck of genders enjoyed our answers to these questions.
Okay. So now we have 3 questions from Bullet Club versus the Shield, who is in chat. Hopefully she didn't leave after, the whole racism and then the autism discussions. I hope we didn't drive too many people off with that. Bullet Club versus the Shield. First question for John only. Who is a bigger failure, Dolph Ziggler, Zack Ryder, or James? And the answer you choose, you need to cut a promo on that person as well.
Ooh. Well, I'm not going to cut a promo on James. He's wonderful, and he's actually been kicking life's ass recently.
Dude, I feel like she keeps trying to incite you to say bad shit about James, and it's like it's not getting through her head that you and James are like best friends.
Yeah, like, we're back together now, and we're better than ever. So.
Maybe she's trying to anticipate another breakup.
That will never happen, okay? I love him, and that is never going to happen. I promise you, James, there's no reason to have a complex right now. We are okay. So that just comes down to Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, we will, James. We will. You should probably wait till she leaves chat first, but yeah, that sounds good. All right, who's it going to be? You know what? I guess Zack Ryder. You know what's funny, though, is I wish this question would have come before the Ella questions, because now I'm in such a weird place. I don't even know if I can get in the headspace to cut a promo. So let me see here. Zack Ryder lost the Intercontinental title after 24 hours. Eve kicked you in the balls. Yeah, you really suck, dude. God damn. All right.
His return cost Mojo Rawley his momentum.
I know, right? You just ruined lives, Zach. So yeah, I guess here's my promo on you. Zach. You say that it's been your dream to be a WWE superstar, that you loved it ever since you were a kid. But you know something? That doesn't make you special. It doesn't, because there are millions of people that have the same story as you do. But oh, wait. Maybe what sets you apart is your promo ability. Except you're never really given much extended mic time because everybody knows what a flameout you are. No. It clearly must be the quality matches you've had. Like when you lost to Sheamus in 25 seconds for the WWE title because he picked you to defend the title against because he knew you'd be an easy fucking win. No, wait. It must be the career-defining moment you had, like when you finally beat Dolph Ziggler to win the United States Championship, only to lose it like a few months later to Jack Swagger, which would begin the downward spiral of your career, which would reach its apex when Kane threw you off the stage while you were in a goddamn wheelchair. Or maybe it was before that when you saw your best friend John Cena making out with the girl of your dreams that was a million leagues away from you, a million leagues above you. But I mean, at least you were sensible enough to know that, right? When you saw that she was really evil. Except no, you weren't, because you were taken in the moment that she kissed you and showed you some affection, because you always feared deep down inside that you were going to die forever alone. But hey, at least that relationship worked out well, right? Oh, except no, it didn't, because she ended up kicking you in the balls at WrestleMania. Do you know what you are, Zach? See, we use terms like main eventer, mid-carder, jobber, and they just feel so inadequate. A lot like your career, mind you, but just so inadequate when describing what you are. And do you know what you really are, Zach? A waste. I mean, even JTG had enough self-awareness to be like, how am I still employed? Let's see how long I can keep this going. Because he knew. He knew what it was really all about. But you're on the margins, and yet you still have this pie-in-the-sky dream. I'm going to be WWE champion one day. And then the moment somebody tries to bring your feet down to reality, like I tried to do, like Cliff tried to do, well, I guess the one great thing you're good at, Zach, is you're great at making tag teams, because you made me and Cliff become the Blocked Bros, because you couldn't handle that little dose of reality. So you said, oh, I got to use the block button. That way all the mean feelings and all the meanie tweets, they'll just go away, and I can keep pursuing my dreams. Your dreams are just as worthless as you are. Why do you think your father was a John Morrison fan? You think that was kayfabe? No, the camera would go off and he'd be like, hey, Dad, great job impersonating that you're a Jomo fan. And he'd be like, yeah, I'm really great. He doesn't know. Don't worry. I have to protect his feelings, because he knew. He knew that even though WWE wouldn't give Jomo his break that he deserved, that he was still 10 times the winner that you were, Zach. So, I mean, how do you even wake up and live with that? That knowing in your own family, even after beating cancer, that they still look at you as the genetic failure of their lot. I mean, that has got to sting. I don't even know why you try. Why are you here? What, are you back to prove something? I saw those rehab videos. Guys, I'm gonna come back, because you injured yourself saving yourself in a battle royal. That almost made Randy Orton giggle, and he took out the freaking garbage. But, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be better than ever. I don't have Kevin Nash knee. You do. You do. And again, so insecure, our little Zachary. But you know that you're not going to do anything. And do you know why this promo's a waste? Do you know why any promo I'm going to cut on you is a waste? Because you are so delusional that no matter how invective the words that I spew out of my mouth are, it's not going to wake you up. And the even sadder thing is no matter how venomous my words are, you can't even deny at your core that, do you know, the one poison that's at the tip of these arrows is the truth. Because I call you out and you can't take it. And if your fans were here, they couldn't take it either. I'm sorry they hitched their wagon to a loser. And I'm sorry they can't handle it. Do you know how I'm able to handle, oh, John and Ricky Mandel are the same person. Oh, John, how are you going to handle this? Because at least my guy is world fucking champion. Do you even know what that feels like, Zach? Oh, of course you do, because you bought those replica belts at Walmart, right? Give the fuck up. The money that's used to pad your contract could cure other people from the cancer that you miraculously conquered. It could feed people in a country on a map that neither you nor admittedly I, because I'm big enough to admit it, could probably point out on a map. And instead, no, we're here patting your ass and by extension your ego. You make me sick. And not even because of all the things I've said, but because you don't even have it in you to face up to it and just give up like any sensible person would. And I know what the question will be, but John, what if Zack Ryder, what if he proves you all wrong, and what if he becomes WWE champion? Then that just confirms to me that the company really does believe that the belt can make the man, because at that point, it's not even a championship anymore, is it, Zach? It's a life raft to try and keep your own mediocrity afloat. You fucking asshole. You're not even worth the spit that would come out of my mouth towards your goddamn face. And get the fuck out of mine and grow the fuck up. So there's your promo, Bullet Club versus the Shield. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it.
You know, I will say, John, there is one thing that Zack Ryder did that you and I and the rest of the Scum Squad haven't managed to been able to figure out how to do, and that's beat cancer, because we'll never overcome the cancer that is Zack Ryder himself.
That is so true. Excellent punctuation, my friend. Let's move on.
Second question, also for John, but this one's going to be a little quicker. You're fighting Johnny Mundo. Do you try and win or lay down for friendship?
Lay down for friendship every fucking time. I will not harm a hair on that magnificent man's head. Next question.
I don't even know why she even bothered asking that. That's the easiest answer in here.
Absolutely. Next.
Third and final question from Bullet Club versus the Shield for both of us, because apparently I don't matter nearly as much as you, since you got 3 questions from her and I got 1. Fantasy book the WrestleMania 34 main event, but you're not allowed to use Nakamura versus Styles or Roman Reigns versus Cena or Lesnar.
Okay. What could we do? How about you go first? You're really good at these.
Okay. Okay. So it's the main event. So I'm gonna say, well, we can't use Nakamura versus Styles, so that's out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say Baron Corbin versus John Cena on the SmackDown side, and Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar on the Raw side.
Okay, on the Raw side, I'm going to agree with like other wrestling personalities, like, and I mean legit, like wrestlers and stuff like that. I think with a proper build-up, Brock versus Joe could be a phenomenal WrestleMania main event on the Raw side. And honestly,
who versus Joe?
Lesnar versus Joe.
We just had that.
Yeah, but I'm saying do it again. Do like a proper rematch at Mania with like a different story and everything else. So I would definitely do that again.
Okay.
Because I hate that Joe lost to 1F5, so I would do things a lot differently. And on the SmackDown side, she said no Styles Nakamura, right?
Right.
Well, then I would just do Styles Cena. I feel like those guys can't have a bad match. They can only have like good to Amazing-Ball matches, and at WrestleMania they'd have an Amazing-Balls match. So yeah, I would just go to that match again because that's a guaranteed winner.
All right. Well, that works for me. I hope that works for her. And up next, we've got 3 questions from Stella J on Twitter, who corrected me in our YouTube comments from a recent video. Apparently, she is half white, half Latina. So that was my mistake.
Oh, very nice.
First 2 questions are for both of us, and then she just does have a Johnny Scumbag question. First question, book a Sanity wins everything angle on either NXT or the main roster.
Oh, man, this is so funny given our discussion about Sanity on our most recent NXT review. Yeah. I mean, hell. You know what? No, because if I'm going to do it, I really want to do it right. I would have Sanity because, see, it's a shame that they're probably going to get the tag title match at Brooklyn, though that hasn't been formally announced, to be fair. I would just have Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, so they look like a legit tag team threat. I would have Ember Moon beat Asuka because I believe Nikki Cross could beat Ember Moon. And then I would have Nikki, because once Asuka has her first loss, then she could take a few more L's like in the future, and like the mystique's already gone. So I'd say I wouldn't do it immediately, but I would do another Asuka Nikki Cross feud, only this time for #1 contendership, and then Nikki ultimately does get the win. So you've got Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf. They won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Nikki Cross has beaten the likes of Asuka, and maybe even do the Ruby feud again, but really do the feud, because I thought that there was a backstory between these two, and they never went any further. We're correcting that immediately, because I think that feud is money if given a proper story. And as far as Eric Young goes, because he's the leader, let's see who we could either have McIntyre, Strong, or Aleister Black as NXT champion. You know what? I like the idea of Black and Young, meaning for the title down the road. So Black is my NXT champion, and Eric Young has beaten the likes of McIntyre and Strong to get there. And then all 3 of these championship matches converge on one takeover. Let's just say the takeover the day before WrestleMania, because, you know, they're all 3 going to win the titles on the same night. And that's how Sanity gets all the gold. So yeah,
That would be Takeover New Orleans then, right? Because that's where WrestleMania 34 is.
Yeah, Takeover New Orleans. They win all the titles. Yeah, and that's just how I would do it. That's my Sanity wins everything in the most simplistic form. So what about you, Ashton? How would you go about it?
I would do it on the main roster. I would do it on SmackDown before we can actually go through with it. I would actually no, I don't even need to change anything. I would just have them all debut, and on their first pay-per-view, I would have Eric Young beat AJ for the U.S. title. I would have Wolf and Dane beat the New Day for the tag titles, and I would have Nikki beat Naomi for the women's title. It's really not that difficult.
There you go. Sounds good enough to me. Let's move on.
All right. That was just as painful as I thought it would be. Second question from Stella. What is your, oh my God, seriously? What is your favorite Sanity theme song among the members? Killian Dane, easy. Move on. John, what was yours?
Nikki Cross's is actually grown on me, so I'll say Nikki Cross.
Okay. Now we've got a question for Johnny Scumbag from Stella. Who's more pathetic, Taya Gardner or 2017 Bailey?
2017 Bailey, for sure. Because here's the thing, Taya, to me on the show, at least had like one recorded duel against Crump of the Big Five, and there might have been another one, and she won that. Whereas Bailey in 2017, like, she's won stuff too, but her recent booking has been absolutely pathetic. So yeah, I'll still say Taya's the better of the two, because I don't even know if she's ever been that bad in terms of like credibility, mainly because she had very little to begin with. So yeah, I'm actually going to say Bailey 2017 is worse. So there you go.
That's shocking. All right, now finally, we've got 4 questions from Brandon Best. First question, John, does 13 Reasons Why romanticize the idea of suicide as revenge?
Oh, we're here. Okay, Jesus. Is Brandon even in chat? I need to know that you're freaking here.
I haven't seen him, actually. He's not even here. He just he had you watch a full season of a TV show, and now he's not even here live to hear your answer to the question.
I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of ticked about that. I mean, I hate to be a dick, but I am kind of ticked about that. Because, yeah, I remember he even said he's hanging out with a friend. Really? You're hanging out with a friend? I could have hung out with friends. No, John, it's okay. All right. I want to do another preface for this question, like I did with the disability and white racism question and all that. I've never had suicide idealization. I've never had suicidal thoughts. And even though I'm pretty sure I have mental health issues, they're not on that side of the spectrum where I think about taking my own life. That said, here's the thing about 13 Reasons Why, because you asked, does it romanticize the idea of suicide as revenge? I don't want to give a long runaround answer, but I'm kind of going to, because I started the show and I immediately felt off about it for reasons that I'll get to in a second. And then because I was very conflicted, you kind of opened up a Pandora's box for me, Brandon, which you're not even here, because I did a shit ton of research on this show. And by research, I mean reading differing perspectives. I went on Twitter and I asked, oh, what did you guys think of 13 Reasons Why? I actually got to talk to people who have struggled with suicide in the past, either directly with their own persons or with people that they loved and cared about. They hated the show. And so I had a lot to think about because, you know, I actually wanted to give effort to your question since you asked me such a big task. And again, you're not even here. And ultimately, my conclusion is fuck this show, because yes, it does. Because here's my problem with 13 Reasons Why. And now let me just say this too. For anybody that got something out of the show, for anybody that enjoyed it, for anybody that's like, that spoke to me and it helped me, I am genuinely happy for you, because I do think resources should be out there for sure. Why I hated it? This woman, right, who, God, I can't even remember her name. God, what was her name? Hannah Baker. She goes through, right, this whole thing. She makes these tapes to people that have caused her to commit suicide, and she makes it into a kind of game. Listen to all the tapes and then pass them on to the next person. And if you don't, I have a second set that I'll release to the police and pretty much blow up the world, right? So she turns it into this whole game, which immediately I'm like, That seems very insulting because I've never heard of any stories or any experiences where people go that far. I've heard of notes, yes. I've heard of that kind of stuff. I've heard of people being pressured. We even heard the story of the woman recently that tried to goad her boyfriend into suicide, but never somebody that was actually going to do the act to go to this much trouble. But then here is what really pissed me off. She goes through all this trouble, right? Recording 13 individual tapes. She doesn't even leave a note for her parents that she's going to do this. So immediately, like, if I'm supposed to buy into this world, into this narrative, right, I'm already kind of losing my footing because, wait, you do all this and you can't even leave your parents like a 2-sentence worth kind of note? And they grieve, and they're good parents too. That's the thing. You see on the show, like, they own a pharmacy, so they're not even rich, and the father gets Hannah a new vehicle for fucking prom night. Oh, it's a new car, it's fine, we just did this. So really loving and attentive parents. And I'm like, you don't even leave them a fucking note. So I really didn't like her. And that was a problem too. And I think the big thing is, and this was a problem when I talked to a lot of other people and I read a lot of other articles, mental health was not discussed one time. Not one time on this show. It was always, oh, this guy spread a photo about me, you know, making it seem like it was something it wasn't, and this and that. And look, I'm not saying that doesn't suck, and I'm not trying to trivialize that, because again, I haven't experienced that. And there were things that happened to her that I could understand how that could push somebody over the edge. Spoiler alert here for people that have any interest in watching the show. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, she gets raped twice. And she witnesses a rape and she doesn't do anything about it and other stuff happens. So I could see how emotionally that takes its toll. But I think on the other hand, this character, just something always seemed off to me. Like, for example, her best friend, who we're following him because he's listening to these tapes. So much fucking attention I paid to this show. He's struggling to listen to him, right? Because messes with me, which is totally understandable. He gets to his tape because he had it, and it was late. It was like in the double digits, and he's wondering all these episodes, and you could see him having a mental breakdown because we know actually that he does have mental health issues, and his family are talking about, oh, should we get him back to a therapist? Should we do this? And he's coming undone at the seams, thinking about what have I done wrong? I need to avenge Hannah. I need to do something. You want to know what it was that he did wrong? He is with her at a party, right? And they're together, and they clearly show throughout the show that they're into each other and all this stuff. And they start to do stuff. They start to get sexually active. And she's even saying on the tape, like, oh, I wanted you to do everything you were doing and this and that. And then she starts to have flashbacks to the men that treated her wrong, you know, between the rape and the guy that shared the picture and all that stuff. And like, it all kind of merged together with the guy named Clay, who I'm feeling terrible for because, again, he's coming fucking undone at the seams, and she pushes him away, and she says, get out, I'm not comfortable, I don't want you here. And Clay, he listened to her. But what a terrible guy when a woman says no and says get out to actually listen. Like, talk about mixed fucking messages in an age where we're told, you know, rape culture and this and that, which, again, I'm not trivializing. I'm very pro on all those things. But then a show actually does that, right? Has a guy listen and say, okay, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. No fuss, no muss. Didn't actually rape her, actually respected her. And then she goes on the tape, I wanted you to come back. I wanted you to stay. How was he going to read her mind? Like, if a woman tells you no that aggressively, right? You think I'm going to roll the fucking dice? Like, no, I'm going to stay. And so it's like, oh, it's not something you did. It's something you didn't do. Fuck you. Like, really, really, fuck you. Does it romanticize suicide as revenge? I think it does. And even talking to people that have had those issues, which I wanted to get their perspective, they didn't like it because, again, mental health wasn't even discussed. They thought it romanticized it too. They thought they almost made it seem like suicide's a game. Oh, it'll get rid of all the pain and you'll make everybody feel bad. Fuck Hannah Baker. Fuck Hannah Baker. Fuck what this show represents. I do think we need a bigger conversation on suicide and better media on suicide, but this is not it. Because some of the things that people get blamed for, I mean, I had trouble buying into, again, especially Clay, right? Who I'm just like, this kid almost had a nervous fucking breakdown, legit. Okay. And it's just like, oh, I wanted you to stay, but you didn't because you told him to leave. And then the guidance counselor, who was the last one, she tried talking to him about being raped, and he's like, oh, give me a name, this and that. Now, I know the stats are out there that even when you do go to police and you do try and give a name, sometimes justice doesn't work out. Case in point, Brock Turner most recently only got 6 months. So again, I'm not trying to say the system is perfect, but in this show, Hannah doesn't even comply. Right? She's like, oh, I can't give a name. I can't say this. I can't say that. So the guidance counselor doesn't have anything. So I feel like his hands are just as much tied as anybody else's. He doesn't know how to navigate this. And she walks out the door and she looks back and she's like, I wanted him to come after me. Like, why? Why? I think that is such unfair expectations on other people. And that causes guilt and really unnecessary like pain and agony to lives that they don't know what to do. So, yeah, I do think we need a bigger conversation. But if anything, I think this show is detrimental. And don't just take my word for it. Again, I talked to people with actual suicidal idealization in the past and stuff like that. They did not like this either. This show is an abomination. And honestly, Brandon, you are so lucky that I watched this for you. And I can't believe you're only going to go back later and hear this. But to answer your question, yes, it does. And fuck 13 Reasons Why. Really debated this, but that's my final decision on it. I guess we can move on.
I gotta ask though, I'm curious, what was the debate? What was the cause of debate in your mind?
Yeah, well, really, again, it's just because I'm not well versed in suicide. So it was really like, well, is this plausible? Is this really making it revenge? Is this a genuine cry for help? But you know what? I think the biggest argument, even if you put my distaste for Hannah and like the more subjective stuff aside, I think one major red flag is, again, mental health was not discussed once. It wasn't talked about. Like, it was for Clay, but Clay wasn't even suicidal. Hannah was, and they don't even talk about that. And also, and this is another great point that somebody mentioned, going back to Clay, who Hannah clearly had feelings for and he had feelings for her, they made it seem like, oh, if he just loved her enough, if he just would have given her enough love, she would have been okay. And again, I think that is so fucked up. And very detrimental to a discourse that we need to be having, because no, you're not going to cure somebody that's suicidal or depressed by loving them enough. That's so fucking tired and played out, and really, to me, a dangerous idea. So yeah, I think this show does a lot wrong. I was really debating, does it do anything right? And there were some people that were like, legitimately, I read articles that were like, this show resonated with me. This show helped me not to kill myself. And again, to those people, I am so happy for you, because again, we need more resources. But for me personally, and as somebody that's gotten to know people that have struggled with this, I think this show is fucking garbage. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Guess what?
What?
I knew that, and that's why I didn't watch it. Ha!
Well, you weren't even asked to watch it, though, so there you go. I was the only one tasked with this shit, and then he isn't even around to see it. So, yeah, Brandon, I hope you got all that you bargained for that. So what's our next question from Brandon?
The next question's from Brandon, and it's to me. You and John go mountain climbing and get to take one wrestler. Who do you take? Well, that's actually pretty easy, because I don't really idolize any wrestlers the way John does, so my choice would be Johnny Mundo.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm sorry, I was actually reading some chat comments. So what was the essence of the question? Like, who would we take mountain climbing?
It was just for me. The question was...
Okay. So...
And it was you and John go mountain climbing and get to take one wrestler. Who do you take?
Oh, okay. So you would... sweet. All right, next...
Third question from Brandon. Thinking of getting some tattoos, mostly full sleeves, and wanted your suggestions. My suggestion is A, don't, and B, if you must, make sure that they have some kind of actual sentimental value to you and you actually want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, my only answer to you would be any kind of Satanist iconography, any kind of symbols.
Don't do that. Don't do that, because you never know when your mind's going to change about that. I thought I was a Christian until I was like 16, 17, 18 years old, and that completely changed.
That is true. I don't know. It really has to be something that you
seriously, because especially with certain things like Satanism, that kind of thing, you might think that's going to be your worldview forever, but that shit changes, and you don't want it permanently on your body when you're 35 years old and you realize, oh shit, I don't actually believe this anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. So I think it really has to be something either that you know at your core is who you are, maybe like your relationships or this and that. And I'm talking like strong relationship, not one of those flimsy shit. And maybe if you feel like Satanism is one of those things, great. If not, yeah, maybe just don't do it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of sympathetic to your first answer, Ashton. The answers that you qualified there. So yeah, that was just kind of my answer. But Ashton does make a great point that could very easily change. So yeah, I would be very careful because I mean those are big tattoos. I would think sleeve tattoos because I mean that's taking up your whole arm, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, just be very choosy about where you go with that. Next.
Next up is our fourth and final question from Brandon Best. During live reactions, which one of you does play-by-play and who does color? Honestly, we both kind of do play-by-play, but if we really had to pick, I'm probably more the color guy.
Yeah, I really feel like we alternate a lot, so I don't really think either one of us really has that pinned down role, so to speak. But I really do enjoy play-by-play. But when I'm Johnny Scumbag, though, oh, color is so much fun. It is so much fun. So yeah, that's all I could say about that. That concludes Brandon's questions, so I guess we can move on.
We got one question from Nathan Ragland this month, and that is Vince gives you a chance to make a film using any WWE superstars. What's the film and who are the stars?
Using any WWE superstars. And you know what? Honestly, if you want to make the big money, I don't even know if there's much money in it anymore. I would do kind of WWE's equivalent to a Pee Wee's Big Adventure kind of thing, and I would have really colorful, vibrant characters like Bailey and the New Day in it. And I would just make it like this adventure film, just with those types of characters. I mean, maybe you get Sasha, maybe you get a few hundred people in there, but the core cast to me would be New Day and Bailey, and yeah, maybe Sasha. I don't know. I'm still kind of debating that, but yeah, something akin to that, where Bailey just goes on this big adventure, either to find like this magical thing or the essence of friendship, where they all learn something, or just some shit like that. So yeah, that'd probably be the film that I'd make. I'm sure all the kids would be like, "Oh, mom, I want to go see Bailey on the big screen," and yeah, that'd be my movie. What about you?
Well, it seems like James already knows what he wants. I think he wants to make a movie called Balls Deep, featuring, I don't know, who's a guy that James is attracted to? Finn Balor, maybe, but then also Sasha and Bailey and Alexa and Peyton Royce and probably Candice LeRae, and just continue on that line. But for me, I want a full-blown horror movie featuring the Wyatt family.
You've been saying that for a while. I'm glad you reiterated that because that really is a great idea. Yeah, I would watch the shit out of that. So we got our answers there. And that was the only question from Nathan Ragland, right? So who's next?
Yep. Next up, we've got 4 questions from Ace the Skylord. First question: how would the wrestling landscape have been if WCW and ECW managed to sort out their issues? I don't actually think WCW's issues were necessarily ones that could be sorted out. I'm pretty sure that WCW, when it got purchased when the Turner purchased, or the Turner, whatever it is, got purchased by AOL, they wanted out of the wrestling business entirely. So I don't think that would have happened. But if ECW managed to sort out their financial issues, they probably would have gone out of style in like the mid 2000s. Honestly, I don't know.
You know what? It's fun. I don't mean for this to be a cop-out answer because I really do want to think about this, but I'm almost thinking, given the current landscape, because Ace isn't taking away any promotion; he's only adding 2 of them, being WCW and ECW Survive. I would think the difference would be negligible, really, because like to me, at this stage of the game, it would just be more places for people to go work. Maybe WWE would be in hot water because they are in kind of a stagnant period. I don't know about financially though. Their quarterly report did come out today, apparently. But so maybe WCW would be able to capitalize. And I've always said if somebody was in charge of the money other than Paul Heyman, which I guess that does kind of fall under the umbrella of the question, that they'd probably get bigger. But I think in this day and age, though, WWE would still probably be running shit. Yeah, ECW and WCW would be worthwhile competition, maybe a little bit above the position that now GFW is in, but I think they've slid so far down the totem pole. But yeah, ultimately, I think it is a negligible difference because I think it just gives guys more options options to work, which is great. But I don't think it's going to be this big World War III kind of thing in the world of wrestling. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if WCW never died, that means WWE never bought them, which means WWE never had their big early 2000s boom, which could actually mean that neither that WCW or WWE would ever have gotten as big again as they were in the late 90s. And with the WWE being kind of throttled in the early 2000s and not being able to have their big boom, I mean, their numbers are already putrid now. So either A, they would have been forced to actually try for a longer amount of time than they did, or B, they would have really, like, they would be minuscule by now. They would probably be like the size of like a Lucha Underground or a TNA by now. And WCW would probably be similar. And the wrestling business might just be run at this point by NJPW.
Yeah, because I mean they're getting ready for a U.S. expansion now. That I think could be very interesting. But yeah, I liked your answer to the question. Like I said, I don't even really know if today's landscape, if that would be like such a big splash in the water. So I guess with that said, we can move on.
Yeah. All right. So, second question from Ace the Skylord: do you guys watch Being the Elite? And right there, I'm just going to say no, I don't. But then the rest of the question was, if so, what are your thoughts on the series?
I've only watched like maybe 2 or 3 videos of it. It's not bad, but I don't keep up with it actively. Like I think the guys are great, you know, the Young Bucks and Omega and all those guys, but I really don't keep up with it regularly. So there you go. Next.
All right. Next up, we've got our third question from Ace. Would you be up for living in an alternate version of the U.S. where Scott Steiner is the president? Well, I mean, considering the state of the presidency right now, yes.
Oh, absolutely. We can't get any worse than where we are now. I mean, I know there's always a place to get worse, but at least we could do it with a smile on my face if Scott Steiner was behind the wheel. So yeah, absolutely. I'd want to live in that universe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, fourth and final question from Ace. Who makes less sense while cutting their promos? Bray Wyatt or the Ultimate Warrior?
Definitely Ultimate Warrior to me. You?
Yeah, I mean, Bray Wyatt only doesn't make sense because we don't pay enough attention to what he's saying to actually hear what he's saying. Ultimate Warrior didn't make sense because he was actually speaking gibberish.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's Warrior. All right, so up next, we got 4 questions from Cliff 'em All. First question, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given in your life, personally?
I'm going to give 2 different answers to that because I really liked both. I remember one time I submitted a question to Jim Ross's website, and he actually answered me back. And he said, you know, look in the mirror. Because I think I asked him for advice when I was still making commentary videos, and I really wanted feedback from him because he was like one of my childhood idols. And he said, like, you know, I'm not the guy to give you that. I'm not perfect. You got to have confidence in the man that you see look back at you in the mirror and let that man lead you into battle. And I really appreciated that he told me that. And then another piece of advice would come from my mentor, more on the philosophy side, JP Moreland, where he said, you know, listen to your body. You know, don't force yourself to come back to writing or doing anything. Listen to your body, know when you want to work, know when you don't want to work. And I've really tried to be more mindful of that. And I feel like I've gotten so much better because of it. So yeah, I've just tried to be more attentive to my bodily health and just being more mindful of that. And yeah, that was definitely advice that I think I've needed to hear for years. And I'm only recently just starting to adhere to it. So those are my answers to that question. What about you? What was the best advice you ever got?
You know, it's kind of weird because I don't really get a ton of life advice from family, but I think the advice that I did receive, and this is actually from my grandpa on my mom's side, my maternal grandpa. When I was younger, we were at a restaurant, and it was like nothing. It was just a nothing thing that he just kind of came out with, but it stuck with me ever since, and I've been thinking about it a lot. We were getting ready to get up and leave, and I was just going to leave everything on the table. And he said, you know, pick up your tray, put it away, throw your trash away, that kind of stuff. And I was just like, okay. And he said, always make sure that you leave a place in better condition than you were when you got there.
That's beautiful advice. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's always stuck with me, and it probably always will. So that's Probably the best advice I've ever gotten, even though I'm sure a lot of people think of it. It's just the only time I've ever actually been told that. So yeah, that's probably it for me. Second question from Cliff. What is the best pizza topping ever? And then he has in parentheses, it's pineapple. Don't put pineapple on a pizza, Cliff. What's wrong with you?
I don't even understand that debate. I had pineapple on a pizza one time, and it wasn't like it was the best thing ever, but it wasn't horrendous. Me, I'm very simple. Give me, well, I can't do cheese anymore. I can do feta cheese. So that's fine on my stomach. But you put some garlic powder on it. I mean, I doubt that that counts as a topping, but that's literally the only thing that I top my pizza with. I'm not really big on pepperoni. Again, don't hate it.
Well, I mean, since you said it already, my answer is pepperoni because really that's pretty much the only topping I ever eat on pizza. Normally, I just eat regular plain cheese pizza, but if I have to have a topping, it's going to be pepperoni all day, every day.
Yeah, I know it's not legitimately a topping, but the best answer I can give is garlic powder because I love that on my pizza just every time. That's the only.
There you go. That's a good answer, though.
Yeah, so there you go.
Third question from Cliff Amal. If Johnny Mundo, God forbid, retired in a year, who would be the perfect opponent for his last match? And you can choose that opponent from any promotion.
Damn. You know what? I'm gonna stay true to my word because I always said that I wanted Johnny Mundo to end his career in Lucha Underground. And in an ideal world where we're not adhering, to current circumstances, definitely Prince Puma because they are my fight forever pair. Yep. And they main evented the first episode, so I think that's the perfect full circle ending. And if not him, then either PJ Black or Jack Evans. And then, when they win, they would take over Worldwide Underground or Taya. Hell, any of the three of them.
Dude, it's so funny. The first name that actually did come to my mind was Taya. I was thinking that would be a perfect matchup for them.
Yeah, the wife taking over the business of the husband, and yeah, so any of those three. But ideally, my first answer is absolutely Prince Puma for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. But just to give a different answer, my answer would be Taya.
There you go.
All right, fourth and final question from Cliff Amal. What's the coolest or strangest piece of wrestling memorabilia that you own?
None really, because the only memorabilia I own would be the t-shirts and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really don't own wrestling memorabilia, so my answer would be my Lucha Underground shirt.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking with the Lucha Underground stuff, I'm gonna say my Lucha Underground mug because I'm looking at it right now. It's become kind of like a pen holder for me, and as well as other weird stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna say my mug because it's both functional and beautiful.
There you go. All right, up next we've got 4 questions from Iconic 6494. And by the way, I wanted to let you guys know, and John, I'll let you know too, so we don't have to worry about it. Every single question from this point on forward is for both of us. So no more individuals in this. It's all for both of us. First question from Iconic. How would you book Kenny Omega in Lucha Underground?
Ooh. Yeah, honestly.
I gotta tell you guys, I'm kind of over the whole how would you book so-and-so in Lucha Underground thing. And not because I don't enjoy the idea of fantasy booking, but because in general with Lucha Underground, they do it better than us.
Yeah, they really do.
And then another thing with Lucha Underground too is that they're so much more fluid. If it was WWE, I could say we'll give him this gimmick, we'll give him this push. But in Lucha Underground, if Kenny Omega wants to go to Lucha Underground and have a clown gimmick, they're going to let him do his thing. He's going to be allowed to do what he wants because people in Lucha Underground get actual creative freedom.
Right.
So if Kenny wants to go to Lucha Underground and he wants his gimmick to be that he's a lion tamer, they're going to be like, well, that's weird, but you're Kenny Omega and you can pull it off, so go out there and kill it.
Yeah, and really those sentiments, you're Kenny Omega, you could pull it off. That's exactly what I keep coming back to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you say that they would do it better than us, absolutely, because I wouldn't even know where to begin with Kenny Omega, yet they would. They would know where to begin, and that's why I leave it to them.
You begin by consulting the performer and asking them what they want to do.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's pretty much going to be, I guess, our collective answer for that because, yeah, I mean, Lucha Underground's just amazing, and they got it down. They don't need us.
Yeah. So, second question from Iconic. The National Wrestling Party wins the elections. Which wrestlers are part of the new White House cabinet?
Ooh. Which wrestlers are part of the new White House cabinet?
Oh man, I definitely want my president to be someone who's very open-minded, someone who's very forward-thinking. So I'm gonna say, oh man, how about President? Well, I know John's gonna be like, oh, President Johnny Mundo, and I wouldn't even complain about that, but. You know what? No, he's libertarian. That's a no. I was going to say Kane because he's actually got political experience, but libertarian is a big no. Damn. Do you have any answers, John? Because I'm struggling with this.
Honestly, I was just going to have fun with this question. I was going to say...
Worldwide Underground is the cabinet.
Actually, no. I was going to say Punk is president. AJ Lee is first lady.
Of course.
You have Mark
VP?
VP would be Daniel Bryan. Or wait, who's CM Punk's best friend? I guess Colt Cabana.
Colt Cabana.
Secretary of Defense would be heel Hall of Pain Mark Henry, because nobody would fuck with us. Let's see. Secretary of Education would be Damian Sandow. What other positions are there to fill?
Secretary of Education, Damian Sandow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Let's see. What other positions are there to fill, though?
Secretary of the State.
Oh, Secretary of State. That's right.
Would that be Kane? I feel like a libertarian would be decent in that job.
Well, I mean, Secretary of State, I feel like, because given what Hillary did in that role, I think that's more like foreign affairs. So who would really be a good international secretary? Maybe Nakamura.
Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, Jinder Mahal. I would say Cena or Nakamura for
Cena. Yes, Cena.
Yes, Cena.
Dude, I'm stealing that. Cena's definitely that for me.
I'd say Surgeon General, which is all about health and conditioning. I'm gonna say AJ Styles because the guy's
Roderick Strong.
Yeah, Roderick Strong. There you go. Roderick Strong or AJ Styles. I'll stick with AJ. You can have Roderick. Secretary of Housing, because Housing and Urban Development. I'm gonna say the Million Dollar Man, Teddy DiBiase. So
that's hilarious that you said $1 Million Man because I said Virgil too. So
yeah,
relate to each other, and I was being ironic.
I can't think. Come on. Anybody in chat have any positions that we're forgetting, or can you think of any?
At this point, they're just naming people without actually giving them labels, so it's kind of pointless because they're a few seconds behind us anyway, so we don't even know who they're assigning these people to.
Okay. Should I look up who makes up a cabinet, like Google it or whatever, and see what positions?
No, I really think we can stop at this point. We've named enough positions.
I'm just glad that I was unique and didn't go the Worldwide Underground route. Yeah.
Oh, don't even act like you wouldn't want Taya and Johnny Mundo running everything.
Oh, they're the Underwoods of my life. I would totally not care if they subverted democracy. Your vote never mattered in the first place, so absolutely Taya and Mundo for eternity. So there you go.
Your vote is worth one vote, unless those votes are tampered with, which they are every time.
God, I love Frank Underwood. I can't wait to watch this latest season of House of Cards. It's kind of been sitting on our Netflix for a while.
Oh man, I still haven't gotten past the first couple episodes of season 2. So
yeah, me and the family we just kind of picked the show up because I'm like me and Ashton kind of slagged off on it. It really does get really good. So yeah, but we both picked very nice cabinets. I guess we can move on.
Okay, let's see. We have our third question from Iconic. What is your favorite wrestler autobiography?
I'm going to say the Stone Cold Truth. I really liked how candid he was in that. Plus, at the time when I was younger, the big chapter I couldn't wait to read was the whole took his ball and went home chapter where he finally got to explain himself. And yeah, I thought Stone Cold's book was very well done. And honestly, even though this wasn't so much an autobiography about a person, but maybe more so about a promotion, come at me, I guess. But I really enjoyed Eric Bischoff's Controversy Creates Cash. No, even if it did take liberties with some stuff, which I'm sure it did, he actually did write it in a very entertaining way. So yeah, I'd say Stone Cold Truth and Controversy Creates Cash, and then honorable mention the Rise and Fall of ECW, because that was also a very well written one. So there you go.
Well, I don't read, so I guess which biopic was my favorite, and that being said, it was CM Punk.
All right, well there you go. I guess we can move on.
I do read, but it's not books. I read articles, I read comments, I read a lot of stuff in a day, but it's not books. So, up next, fourth and final question from Iconic, and I'm not going to be able to answer this other
crap.
than Dragon Ball Z because that's always just my go-to anime. But which anime have the best / greatest OST?
Oh, original soundtrack.
I didn't even know that that's what that stood for.
I'm so glad I'm here. I mean, granted, you pick me out of so many oceans that I would drown in, so I'm glad I could be here for you this one time. I mean, obviously, you guys know I love Code Geass. I'm gonna say that. Death Note has a really good one, especially when Light just gets all sinister. Naruto Shippuden, actually, the original Naruto had a better one. Because the one thing I don't like about Naruto Shippuden, and again, come at me, but I don't like that sometimes it takes itself a little too seriously. I actually like that Naruto could be a lot more lighthearted than Shippuden became, because then it was all about Jinchuriki and the Akatsuki and all that crap. But yeah, Naruto, especially with the more comedic moments, had some great soundtracks. And even though I've totally fallen off with the anime, and this one I am kicking myself for, One Piece could have some badass shit. I'm like, oh man. So yeah, those are a few anime that, yeah, they definitely deserve to be commended for their soundtracks for sure.
Okay, there you go. All right, now we've got 4 questions from Javaris Carter. First question, name a wrestler that you want to hate, but is so talented you can't help but to respect.
I feel like that's... Oh, there you go. Why? Because of like some of his real life stuff, or?
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's pretty blatantly homophobic, and there are rumors that he might even be racist to a degree. And so yeah, like I would like to be able to be like, man, I really hate that AJ Styles guy, but he's just so damn good.
I mean, I guess for me, the de facto answer has to be Benoit, right? Because I still enjoy the matches, and I still enjoy everything else, and I know that, like, yeah. So there you go. There you go. Oh my God.
There you go. Second question. I feel like, guys, you really need to remember to label who these are for, because I feel like these next 2 questions should be just for John. Or who was your favorite Naruto villain, and what was your favorite Naruto fight?
Oh, were these? You said these were from Jarveris, right? Because these sound familiar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good news for you, Jarveris. I actually went back and I watched some Naruto fights that I love. Well, I guess first favorite Naruto villain. I actually really grew to appreciate Kabuto, because he was always kind of like in the background gathering intel, and then he just evolves the fuck out of nowhere. So yeah, I was always a Kabuto guy as a kid when I was really into the anime. And as far as Naruto fight, I think that really depends on what you're looking for, because I have 3 fights that I really love, but all for different reasons. I love Rock Lee versus Gaara from the Chunin exams, because Lee is a fucking beast, and I thought that was just so beautifully drawn and executed that fight was great. I love Pain versus Sage Naruto, because Pain fucking destroyed the Lee village in like 1 or 2 episodes, when Orochimaru would have entire arcs about destroying the village and fail. So yeah, Pain versus Naruto was great because Pain was such a legit villain. Plus, he was more philosophical, which of course I'm going to gravitate towards. But I think my all-time favorite fight, and I know Jarveris, you said yours was Sasuke versus Itachi. Mine has to be a fight that I think is actually grossly underrated, and that's Kidomaru versus Neji Hyuga. I love it because there's actually legit strategy in that fight, because you got Neji with the Hyuga style and the Byakugan, which can see things from like so far away, and you've got Kidomaru, who's this spider, so he can make like these webs using his chakra, and he can turn them into arrows, and the whole fight is just like Kidomaru trying to find the weakness of the Byakugan, and it's long-range combat versus like close-range combat, and both guys are very thoughtful and cerebral. It's not just oh, we're gonna punch each other a million times until one of us falls. No, there was actual strategy and tactics, and that's why I think I adore that fight, because I wish we saw that a lot more. And this was, again, in the original Naruto, which I actually prefer to some degree to Shippuden for my money. So yeah, I think Kidomaru versus Neji was absolutely my favorite fight, because there was actually substance to it on that strategic level. And yeah, it's so good. So good. So yeah, and I saw, Ash, and you said you don't even like watch Naruto or know much about it, so I guess we could bypass those questions and just move right along then.
All right. Up next, we got our fourth and final question here from Javaris. And it's actually a request. He wants Johnny and Ashton Scumbag to cut a promo on either Trump supporters or the Westboro Baptist Church.
You know what? Westboro Baptist Church, I'm not going to lie again. Like, I'm just in a weird place where do I have another promo in me? You know, I hear these people talk and they picket the funerals of dead soldiers and this and that. Honestly, I could say all these vile things and this and that, but for me as an atheist, I guess the greatest satisfaction is knowing that they're doing all this vile stuff for something in my mind that's a lie. So they're going to die really not knowing anything, and all of their actions are going to be inconsequential because in one form or another, all of our actions are inconsequential. So while the Westboro Baptist Church think that by being abusive to their own children, because I've heard about children being kicked out, by picketing the funerals of dead soldiers and getting mobs spitting at them and throwing rocks at them, that they're doing God's work, you're really not doing any work because you're insignificant. And again, that's not even you specifically, that's just more of a broad point. And you're servicing a cause that to me personally isn't even worthwhile, mainly because it doesn't exist when you could be expending your energy doing other stuff, but you don't, because really at the core, I don't even know if you love or believe in a God anyway. I honestly believe that you're just attention whores, and this is the best outlet that you could choose. You're pathetic, your death will bring me great delight, but mainly because everything you did was utterly pointless. So that's my quote-unquote promo, if you want to call it that, on Westboro Baptist.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I'm not going to cut a promo on Trump supporters because I genuinely think that most Trump supporters aren't malicious. They're just misinformed. And maybe just educating them would be a better way to go about it than just angrily yelling at them and telling them why they're wrong. So I guess that kind of just leaves me with the WBC as well. And I have a hard time even cutting a promo on most of them because I feel like 80% or 90% of the Westboro Baptist Church are kids that were raised in that toxic environment. I think that the lead guys is, it's something Phelps. I'm going to look it up real quick. And the lead guy's name is, come on, Google, be my friend. We know that they're like the picketing and shit is awful, but when you're raised in that shit, there's not really much you know that goes against it. And I'm not seeing anything about who the lead guy is, so unfortunately, I can't even cut a promo on that prick. Fred! There it is! Fred Phelps! Yes! And he's dead, so we even won that. So no, I don't even have a promo to cut here.
All right, then let's bypass that and move on.
God damn. I really lucked out there, didn't I? All right. We've got two questions from Jawtard. First question, how many times has Stephanie peed herself on cable TV? I'm going to say 0.
Yeah, one less time than her father, which is 0, because he actually did piss himself on TV one time, but she did not. So there you go.
Yeah, I know that there was like one point when she had like a dark spot around like her butt crotch area on her dress when she was on TV, but I'm definitely thinking that wasn't her having peed.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Anyway, second question from John Tard. I get my storylines from the 24-hour news cycle and action from UFC. How can wrestling compete with that?
Yeah, when I first recorded this question, because I think this is on one of my pinned tweets, which I recorded, I really didn't even know how to answer it. I mean, I guess it doesn't, maybe, I don't know, because it really all depends on what you're looking for, and if the news is satisfying your one thing, like, oh, I wonder how this North Korean storyline is going to develop, and the UFC satisfying the other, I guess wrestling can't compete. I know that may seem
no. He's saying like there are, oh god, he gets his storylines from the 24-hour news cycle. Oh, I see what he's saying. So he's saying like the only things that wrestling provide are storylines and action, and he gets his storylines from the 24-hour news cycle, and he gets his action from the USC. So why even bother with wrestling at all? And John, I'll let you continue.
I mean, yeah, I guess my answer ultimately be, I guess don't bother, because I really don't know then if you really feel like you get the storylines from one thing and like the action and stuff in the other, what really is left of wrestling? I guess it's asking is wrestling more than storylines and action? And I've never really perceived it as such. So I guess for me, don't bother. I mean, yeah, Alex Foster gave a great answer because wrestling is awesome. I think when it's good, and I mean really good, it's one of the best things on earth. And when it's horrible, you just kind of want to curl up in a ball and die. But, that depends. Like, I don't know what Jawtard would regard as really exceptional wrestling. Maybe he doesn't think anything does. So, yeah, I'm just going to say don't bother. What about you, Ash? I'm curious how you're going to navigate this question.
I mean, to me, if you're getting your entire fill on storylines from the 24-hour news cycle, you're going to be freaking miserable because that's nonfiction. That's real shit. That's real life. To me, I think the point of wrestling isn't because it provides you with real storylines. It's because it provides you with an escape from that reality. And I think that wrestling does a really good job of that. But you can also get that from movies. You can also get that from TV shows. You can also get that from books. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to what form of entertainment do you prefer? And if you don't like wrestling and you would prefer the news cycle or your movies or whatever, and then you would prefer to get your action from UFC, then it comes down to personal preference. So to me, it's not a matter of, whoa, how can wrestling compete with this thing? It doesn't need to, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I could say, which again, to Ashton's point, you could also get the same thing from like movies and books and stuff like that. I guess wrestling provides a kind of catharsis because you do see the good guy win eventually and stuff like that. And I think that kind of provides an emotional release. But the same way that, I mean, just with a film off the top of my head, that when you have that one scene in Toy Story 3 where it seems like all the toys are going to get incinerated, but they escape, that's an emotional release because you're having all this tension and anxiety, and then they come out of it okay. So you can get catharsis from other mediums as well. But yeah, that'd be the only other thing I could think of is like not just that escapism, but maybe that release.
All I guess I'm really going to say and add on to this is if you're looking for an excuse to not watch wrestling, don't watch wrestling. There's no point in forcing yourself to watch wrestling.
Beautifully said. So I guess we can move on.
All right, up next, we had 4 questions from Mark Schoeneman. First question is, what are some of the best/worst/weirdest Reddit threads you've discovered?
I only have one answer to this. And what was it called, Ashton? I'm struggling to remember the name, but it had that one image where it's like, I only needed the toaster and the bathroom plug, but I got the bread so that the cashier wouldn't worry.
Oh, that was on the 2MeIRL, 4MeIRL subreddit.
That's the best one. I'm not even going to answer about worst or weirdest because I wouldn't really have an answer for that, but that easily is the best one. I showed it to James and he didn't seem impressed, which, I mean, to me, that just means the internet failed because I really thought that subreddit was made for James. But yeah, that's fucking gold. I was dying when you rolled those out that one night for sure.
Maybe, well, he did say thread, like specific individual thread, not just overall subreddit. But maybe the reason James wasn't impressed is because they have an actual suicide hotline number in that Reddit, and he thinks that that's not going far enough.
Yeah, maybe. As far as thread, and see, that's the thing. If I'm really being honest, I really fell out of love with Reddit. Like, it's not that I won't enjoy like subreddits like that, but I'm not an active user of it. Like here, I thought once I gave myself to it that I would be as hooked as everybody else. I personally hate it. I think it's annoying as shit. So I really can't give an answer to that question. But Ashton, I think maybe you'd be more capable. So what about you?
Oh man, well, I would say, the worst Reddit thread I'd ever seen was on the Squared Circle subreddit. Somebody made a post that said something about how like Stone Cold Steve Autism is the greatest of all time and should be a first ballot Hall of Famer or something like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was like voted as like the #1 thread on the entire subreddit, and it stayed there, and it reached our all, and it was like the most popular thing of that day. And I thought that was really pathetic because it was pretty clearly an intentional misspell, and the guy was just trying to get attention, and Reddit got worked.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's no surprise.
Yeah, so that was the worst. Really, I mean, the best individual thread, maybe like the live and post game threads for the Falcons versus the Browns in 2014, because that was one of those games where Mike Smith called a timeout for the opposing team and it cost us the game. And the post game uproar was amazing. And I'm not entirely unconvinced that that game plus the Detroit game in London weren't the reason that Mike Smith got fired in the first place. So that was pretty amazing. Weirdest Reddit thread, though, just most of them, almost all of them.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. So I guess we can move right along.
Yeah. Looks like, let's see here. Second question from Mark Schoeneman. As wrestling fans, do our preconceived notions about what a show is going to be affect our overall enjoyment of it? Yes, but not in the way you're expecting. To me, our preconceived notions affect a show in typically the opposite direction that you would expect. So if you go into a show thinking it's going to suck and it's actually okay, the odds of you thinking that it sucked just because that was your preconceived notion is very, very low. If anything, if the show was okay and you thought it was going to be absolutely horrible, you'll overrate it then because it surpassed your expectations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with those sentiments for sure.
I think you and I have both experienced that multiple times.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think you echoed my sentiments perfectly, so I really have nothing worthwhile to add. I think we can move on to Mark's next question.
All right, Mark's third question: does nostalgia make us feel or make us less critical of wrestling? We grew up wrestling we grew up with, and more critical of current wrestling. I feel like we answered this question before, didn't we?
I don't think we have. Although to answer your question, yeah, I do think nostalgia is kind of blinders, to a certain era, and definitely more critical of the current stuff. I mean, look no further than a guy like Jim Cornette, right? And again, I do like Jim. I do like listening to him, but I think like he gives nothing contemporary the nod, save for the revival, and that's only because they work a style that like he grew up with, and he happens to just enjoy it, like because they do it very well. So yeah, absolutely, I think nostalgia affects us in both of those ways. I mean, hell, even me, to give an example in proximity, I know the Death Note movie is coming out on Netflix, and me and Ashton can vouch for me because I openly admitted this to him. I'm not going to watch it because I know I won't be able to give it a fair shake because I'll constantly be comparing it to the anime because I have nostalgic memories of watching the anime. And I think the live action looks like garbage, but is that objectively so? Or is that because like I'm just feeling very reactive to something that's threatening positive memories that I had of something? And I definitely think that's the case. And I owned up to that, so I'm not even going to watch it. So yeah, even if you want a more personal case, you've got me right here. Absolutely, nostalgia affects us in that way, I would say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've definitely noticed that whatever we grew up with and whatever content we enjoyed when we were kind of at our high point in our lives ends up in the long term being the content that we hold on the highest pedestal. So, for example, wrestling that I got to see when I was in my late single digit age to my preteen and then early teen years, because those were really enjoyable times in my life and that kind of stuff. That's going to be the wrestling that I'm going to say was the best, even though it objectively might not have been. It might have been. It might not have been. Either way, though, Jim Cornette was making the most money in the wrestling business during the era of wrestling that he now considers to be the best. But the reason why he considers that era to be the best is because that was the era that he personally was making the most money during. It's an endless cycle with him.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the best I can answer that question. I guess we can move on.
Fourth and final question from Mark. Do you believe in any conspiracy theories, wrestling related or not?
No, I used to as a kid, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. There was definitely a point in time when both you and I believed in some conspiracy theories and even some 9/11 related conspiracy theories because we watched a film called Zeitgeist and we really bought into it, and we even started making videos about some of the shit that they talked about in Zeitgeist.
Right.
And, yeah, like it was also a very I guess you could say propaganda laden film.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'd say the closest thing I come to believing in a conspiracy is that like the Montreal screw job was a work.
Right, right.
So that's about it. Anyway, up next we have 4 questions from Super Blue. First question from Super Blue: what is the most overrated anime you've watched or heard of?
Most overrated anime I've watched or heard of? Hmm. Honestly, I can't say that I've really experienced an anime like that. Because even anime that was like really popular, like again a Naruto or a One Piece, like once I really sat and like experienced it for myself, I'm like, you know what? No, I do get what all the fuss is about. So I don't think I've ever encountered something where I'm like, well, that was overrated. Maybe even Shippuden, honestly, Naruto's kind of successor, because I just don't think that was as good as when Naruto was like kind of growing up. And again, it didn't always take itself so seriously and stuff like that. But even that, again, had some great moments, so I can't hate on it too hard. But yeah, that would be the closest that maybe I've come. Other than that, though, I really haven't had that kind of experience.
Well, I've only ever really watched like 1 or 2 anime series in my life, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them, so I can't really give a proper answer to this either.
All right, so I guess let's move on.
Second question: what is your favorite DBZ abridged episode and movie? I've never watched any of the DBZ abridged movies, so I can't answer that part either.
I have watched the DBZ abridged movies. I think the Android 13 movie was really good because I really like the humor in that. As far as episode, gee, that's a tough one. I I think I like when Frieza he first transforms, like he reaches his final form and then he kills Dende at the end. That was a really good one because I really like the humor in that. Trying to think of any other episodes. The episode where, because I think he only went to his second or third form at this point before his final form, where he tells Vegeta like, "Oh, this is how I killed your dad." Yeah, the Frieza saga had a lot of some of the best ones. Cell Saga hasn't been too bad. I'm actually really enjoying that. I think I'm gonna enjoy it more now that Gohan's actually like in the fight now. But I think one that I'd pick out from the Cell Saga was, I don't remember the exact number or the title, but it ends with him making a phone call to the radio station, and he asks for them to play Video Killed the Radio Star. And they're like, "Oh, we only usually do the top 20, but we'll make an exception for you, killer." And he's like, "Oh, thanks, guys. I'll be right in." And then he crashes the station and he absorbs them both. And you can hear the guy screams over the loose phone, like, "Oh, rah, rah," and then getting absorbed into his biomass. So yeah, that was a creepy as fuck episode, and they actually did horror really well. So yeah, those are some of my favorites for sure.
Okay, so I just realized while you were talking that I actually have seen a DBZ abridged movie, and that was the Broly movie, and that was amazing because the voice acting that they got for super legendary Super Saiyan Broly was hilarious.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That was very well done.
That had me dying. So that would be my answer. As far as the actual episodes, I don't know the number, but the episode when the androids first show up and they're killing people in that town, that would definitely be it for me.
Yeah, that I think I know which one you're referring to. That was also really good. So I guess we can move right along.
Okay, our second question from Super Blue, actually our third question from Super Blue. What is your favorite Austin Aries moment in WWE? Oh, dude, remember that time when Austin Aries got released?
You pretty much took the answer I was going to give because I was just going to simply say his exit. So yeah, that's my favorite Austin Aries moment because I don't have to deal with that trash on my television anymore.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if I had to pick an answer, to be fair to Super Bowl, it would be his heel turn on No Way Jose, because him dancing with No Way Jose on the announce table and then he just punches him in the face was fucking hysterical to me. So yeah, either his NXT heel turn and definitely his exit is my #1 favorite moment.
Yeah, the exit is definitely #1 for me. So you can have the heel turn. Fourth and final question though from Super Blue. I'm sure he's an Austin Aries fan, so this is his way of getting back at us for that last question. If the Falcons believed in the heart of the cards, had Taya Gardner as a life coach and Tim Tebow at quarterback, would they have won the Super Bowl? Easy answer, no. They wouldn't have gotten to the Super Bowl with Tim Tebow at quarterback because he's a scrub.
And because I have much ineptitude about football and still do, I'm just going to co-sign to him there. And plus, I feel like Taya would be very distracting You know, when they're trying to actually work the goddamn ball in the field. So yeah, it just seems like a recipe for disaster. No, in fact, if anything, they wouldn't have even had the dominant showing they had in the first half in the first place. So yeah, that arrangement would not have worked.
All right, so I guess we can move on. Then we've got two questions from Daniel McGrady. First question: Sexy Star Roman Reigns and Bad Luck Fale are the biggest heels in wrestling right now. Who else would you choose?
I would actually add Miz to that discussion. I still think he gets pretty good heat.
Yeah, he does, but he's being wasted on Dean Ambrose right now.
He is being wasted on Dean Ambrose, but he's able to get the responses that he looks for. Rusev, I think, gets pretty good heat, but that's only really because boo, different country than us, hiss, all that stuff. And I guess you'd have to add Jinder in that category too, because he's the freaking champion. So yeah, I'd say Miz, Rusev, and Jinder are probably also getting pretty strong reactions, but especially Miz though. I definitely want to put my all into that answer because he really is genuinely good. As is Rusev. It's just Rusev's also being wasted. So there you go.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what? I can't believe you didn't mention this, but I feel like Johnny Mundo is one of the biggest heels in wrestling right now too.
Oh yeah, Johnny Mundo, and I'll tell you what, Chad, or at least Ben Jr. came up with a great answer. Elias Sampson's been getting pretty consistent, heat and booze. So yeah, so there you go.
Mahal too. We can't. I mean, he's not good.
I mentioned
Mahal.
That's
a hell of a big reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I did mention Mahal, so yeah, we got him covered. And yeah, you're right about Mundo. He's doing really well for himself. I feel like Matanza for a time was getting great reactions.
We haven't seen him in a while though.
We have not.
I want to say like January 31st, I think, or January 27th, somewhere around there. The last episode before the break was the last time we saw Matanza.
Yeah, brother, it's been a long time.
Okay, second question from Daniel McGrady. Which phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the strongest so far?
Okay, now to answer this, what movies go with which phase? Because I'm sure phase one, that's like what, Iron Man?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that, and I knew I was going to have to look it up as well, so I just Googled it. Phase one was Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, The First Avenger, and The Avengers. Phase 2 was Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. Phase 3 isn't over yet, but so far it is Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming. And in the future, also in Phase 3 will include Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and the untitled Avengers sequel and the untitled Spider-Man sequel.
I'd say based on expectations, Phase 3, because I'm really hyped for Infinity War and Black Panther and all that stuff. But from stuff we've actually seen, I'd say Phase 2 for me personally, because it has Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, both of which were brilliant.
Yeah.
So what about you, Ashton?
I would agree, yeah. Phase 3 was really, so far, it's been, you know what, actually, yeah, I am going to say Phase 3, because you and I have seen all three of the movies that are in Phase 3 so far, and all three of those movies have been good to great, with Spider-Man Homecoming getting almost unanimously positive reviews. Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, and Infinity War all look amazing. So I'm going to say Phase 3. Phase 2, Iron Man 3, and Thor the Dark World were both kind of meh, if not just flat out not good. And then in Phase 1, most people feel like The Incredible Hulk is the worst Marvel movie ever. And the first Thor movie was another one that was just kind of okay. Iron Man 2, probably the worst Iron Man movie out of the three. And Captain America, The First Avenger was very good, but the two Captain America movies that have been made since then have surpassed it pretty significantly. So yeah, I'm going to say Phase 3, because we haven't had a weak Phase 3 movie yet.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. So up next, then, we've got two questions from Charlene. First one is thoughts on the Seth and Dean storyline going on right now.
I'm personally loving it. I mean, I still wish that Dean would be utilized better. Hell, I would actually really love if he turned heel in this. But on Seth's side, I love that he's kind of had this babyface turn where he's not immediately absolved. Because I do notice that with a lot of baby faces, you know, that like he'll share a locker room with people that maybe only a few months prior he was like feuding with, and there's no tension. But here, Seth actually has to earn his way back into Ambrose's good graces. And we even saw that when they won the handicap match. Like, they hugged, yeah, but then Seth wanted the iconic fist bump of the Shield, and Dean more or less said through his body language, we're not there yet, because he totally dissed him. So I love it. I love that it's an actual redemption storyline for Seth to the people that he cares about, because he did tell Triple H, like, I preferred who I was before I met you, and that would include, you know, running the Shield. And he clearly misses his brothers, and now he's trying to earn that back. And it's really cool seeing that journey. And I think so far the pacing's been pretty good. I just hope Raw doesn't fuck it up. But yeah, Charlene, I'd say I'm thoroughly enjoying that storyline. It's one of the better things in the undercard that Raw has going in my mind. What about you, Ashton?
Yeah, to me, I loved Seth's promo. It was very passionate, but I feel like Dean Ambrose right now, the WWE has no clue what to do with him. And it's that they have so little clue what to do with him. They're actually regressing him back to the Shield storyline. We're going back to the Shield again. And the only, I guess, positive, if you want to call it that, to this is that they're not bringing Roman into it, which would inevitably make people cheer for Roman again, which would inevitably make WWE think they have a chance at making him a top babyface again, which would inevitably piss me off. So I'm glad they're not bringing Roman back into it, but I feel like Seth is very much being wasted in this storyline involving Dean Ambrose and The Miz. I think he's above it. I think he should be in contention for the Universal title with Joe and Strowman and Lesnar and who else is in that? Roman, that's right, of course. So I think Seth should be in that discussion, not Intercontinental Championship discussion. I feel like he's being wasted. I want more for Seth. I want WWE to figure out what the hell they're doing with Dean Ambrose. Quite frankly, I'm disappointed we never got the Dean Sampson pay-per-view match that I wanted. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, but I do think that Seth is still doing great work, even though I think he's above this sort of tier of worker.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you that he's above this. I want him back in the Universal title picture because, you know, Seth's one of my favorites on Raw. And not to be like pissing in anybody's cereal, but you say you're glad Roman's not in it. I would bet the house that he's going to be in it come Survivor Series, because it'll be like Team Shield or whatever versus Team whoever the antagonists are, maybe Miz still. So yeah, Roman will find his way in the orbit of all this, you rest assured, and everything that you said would piss you off happening will probably happen. So we just got to wait it out. But yeah, that's my answer on that. Let's get to our next question.
Second question from Charlene. Thoughts on Renee finally getting to be on both shows after they canceled Talking Smack? First of all, I'm still not okay with the fact that they canceled Talking Smack. And second of all, I guess it's cool that Renee gets to be with Ambrose more often now, but she's kind of in that awkward position where she's traveling twice as much as everyone else on the roster, like her and Corey Graves, because I think Graves is still commentating 205. So her and Graves and the Cruiserweights are traveling twice as much now as everyone else on the roster because they have to work multiple shows a week in multiple locations. So that would piss me off if I was one of them. Quite frankly, I think Renee deserves better. WWE needs Renee more than Renee needs WWE. And I think that Talking Smack getting relegated to a post-pay-per-view only show is the biggest issue that WWE has going right now.
I mean, hell, you gave a beautiful answer. There's not much I can add to that, but just to give my own 2 cents, I'd be pissed if I was Renee. Because here's the thing, you might be working both shows and you might be traveling more, which, I mean, may mean more money. I don't know her contract status or anything. But the thing is, like, I feel like Talking Smack allowed Renee a very broad platform to have a personality. Because if
plus she got to show off her acting chops, so the WWE's going out of their way to shorten the Renee Young reel when she finally gets out of that hellhole and tries out for Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she had amazing chemistry with Brian. I love when her and Kevin Owens go at it because I think she's such a great sympathetic foil. I think she's got a great personality. Like, this woman used to be, I believe, a kind of journalist or sportscaster before WWE scooped her up. I feel like she got to show off those chops on Talking Smack and then some. And then when you're a backstage interviewer, all it is you ask questions, they answer. You don't get to rebuke. You don't get to challenge like Renee got to do with Kevin Owens or further a conversation with the New Day or anything like that. Like, I feel they really curtailed her voice. And like that makes me very sad for her because yeah, maybe you're working both shows and you're doing more. And again, I don't know the contract status, but I think it's also about quality of work rather than just quantity of work. And while her quantity may have gone up, the quality has severely diminished. And I feel very bad for her for that. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully Renee finds herself in a better position in a year or two. It's a shame that they're kind of screwing her around like this. So we don't have questions, but we do have 2 requests from Hazardous Something. This is going to be so awkward, and I really wish you guys wouldn't keep doing this. But first one is Big Larry and Mark Henry have a discussion about being black in America.
Okay, am I supposed to like pantomime that conversation, or like am I supposed to like imitate that conversation, or what are we supposed to do here?
Well, he said no questions, but 2 impression requests for the Q&A. You know, I wonder how these 2 dialogues would sound, and this was the first one that he wanted to know how it would sound. So,
oh God, that seems
we want to we want to like pick a character and have this discussion with each other in character, or like I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, because I feel like you do a better Mark Henry than me. I really don't want to do this if I'm being honest, but like I feel like you do a better Mark Henry than me. So I guess I'll do the Big Larry because I thought that was fucking hysterical. And I'm not saying I do a good one, but I just feel more comfortable with that. And let's just get this over with, I guess.
But I don't even, that's the thing though, like just asking us to do impressions is fine, but you got to tell us what to say. Like just telling us to have a discussion about being black in America is too vague. We don't have a jumping off point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I need direction. You know, I am an artiste. I can't work under these conditions. But no, yeah, I really don't even know how I would go about it. But I don't want to bypass the question at the same time.
Big Larry, and did you see Hypothesis's comment in chat? Big Larry and Mark Henry should team up as 2 silverbacks.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. So how do you want to handle this? Do you even want to do this, or do we want to just apologize to Hazardous and ask him if he wants anything else done in the next one and move on? Because I really don't know what to do here.
Yeah, I don't know what to do here either. We'll put it on your tab, Hazardous. You come back at us with another question and we'll be sure to do
the
that.
next one, I mean, the next one is a little bit less awkward. I think we might be able to actually do this. But I might kind of flounder a little bit because it's supposed to be, but that maybe that's better because I'm going to be doing a Steiner. You're going to be Nikki Bella for this because your Nikki Bella is way better than mine. A philosophical debate between Nikki Bella and Scott Steiner.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Do you want to do this?
I mean, my pride might take a hit, but really what pride left is there?
Well, remember, though, you're impersonating Nikki Bella. So if you want to, like, go out of your way to work some, like, awful, like, I think I'm a philosopher, but I actually don't know what I'm talking about tropes into this, go for it.
Yeah.
Like the mispronunciation of that one guy that I mispronounced earlier and you're really pissy about.
Yeah, I was really pissy. God, I love this field so much. And that's why even this is hard. But all right. God, you know what? Like, all these people talk about the meaning of life, and I just feel like the meaning of life is a placard. Look at these bags I got. I'm so happy. I'm married, or wait, no, engaged. John says the wedding can wait. But I'm engaged to a man of such material wealth. Clearly, that must be the meaning of happiness, right, Scott?
You don't know what you're talking about, bitch! What are you gonna do when you get old and ugly and your boy seen over there doesn't have any of his muscles anymore? I'm the genetic freak. I'm the one who's gonna be immortal. I'm the one who's gonna have muscles and look like this for the rest of my life. So the real meaning of life isn't your material possessions or anything like that. My philosophy is that the meaning of life is to be big and jacked for the rest of eternity.
You know what? You're just mad because your legacy is running a rundown Shoney's, and I'm this amazing woman and the longest reigning Divas champion. Like, when we talk about the meaning of life, what's the meaning of Nikki Bella's life? And I just think the meaning of my life is being such an accomplished performer, and I totally caused the women's revolution. and I'm the fiance.
Oh, is that what it is? You caused the women's revolution, also known as the biggest black mark in the history of the wrestling business. Everybody knows that female wrestlers can't really draw. Everybody knows the only time people pay to see women is when they're taking their clothes off and working a pole. Now take your clothes off. I'm working off.
You know what? I have to be talked to like this. You're so mean, Scott. Just acting like we should all just undress and whatever. See, Scott, you need to be more mindful of the Bella brand. And specifically, Scott, you need to be more mindful about me. Now, if John was here, you know, my man, he would not tolerate you talking to me this way. And so
I'll whip your boyfriend's ass in 2 seconds. That guy ain't nothing but a fake tough guy playing a fake tough guy on a fake TV show.
John is actually really amazing. He was with me and there for me through all of my rehab, and maybe that's what the meaning of life is.
Oh, like, you think you know what rehab is? You think you know what rehab is, sweetheart? I was doing rehab when you were still in diapers. You don't know the meaning of rehab. Rehab is being up late all night with a needle in your arm, not knowing your dick from your asshole. You don't know rehab, bitch.
I think you're so mean, Scott. Like, you know what? I don't even know if there's any meaning in your life when you're so mean to everybody and you push everybody away. Like, I'm a very nice person. People tell me that all the time. And I'm a very successful businesswoman, and I leave the world better than I found it. Like this Louis Vuitton handbag, for instance. Like, I got it, and it used to just be on a rack, and now it's like over my shoulder, so it's better now because it's being shown off. And
you know, it's kind of funny to me that you bring up that something was on a rack, because I couldn't help but notice that your rack has gone up in size pretty significantly over years, because I've seen your sister and Brie Bella. She's fat.
Okay, first of all, Brie is preggers right now, and I really don't appreciate you shaming her baby weight. I think that's very regressive.
I didn't say flat, you dumb bitch. I said flat.
Oh. Yeah, John says I need to work on my listening. It's like rule number 557 of his in-house rules. But regardless, like, I just think you're being totally ignorant right now, and I don't appreciate it, because Brie works really hard, and she's beautiful, and mainly, like, yeah, I didn't want to be flat either, which is why I got these, and I'm really proud of them, and John paid for them.
Yeah. How much did those rock, Cena?
I'm not going to answer that because that's our bedroom and that's private. Like, I don't even know why you're asking me about that, but okay. And yeah,
all right, you know what? I'm getting about sick of this conversation. I'm gonna go back to working off. You want to make out?
I mean, maybe if John leaves me, things are
shut the hell up and kiss me, bitch.
End scene, because I can't take it. Let's move on to our next question.
Oh my god, you dragged that out for way too long.
I was waiting for the cue to stop.
I've tried to end that on like 4 different occasions.
Well, do better at signaling, Scott. God, no wonder we would have never worked out.
Oh my god. Okay. Up next, we have 4 questions from Ben Jr. and then 4 questions from Alex Foster, and that's the end of this Q&A. So,
oh, thank fuck, let's do it. I got an adrenaline rush now. Let's do it. Final stretch.
First question from Ben Jr. Will you guys react to the Mae Young Classic? I heard good stuff about it. Yes, so did we, and we're excited.
I am excited as fuck. Next question.
Oh my god. Second question from Ben Jr. What music are you listening to?
Well, I listen to a lot of 3 Days Grace, not so much Linkin Park anymore. It's kind of weird now after what happened recently. Some Three Doors Down.
God, where's James in chat? He's about to show up.
Yeah, definitely. Evanescence I love, and really I've been listening to a lot of wrestling themes lately. So, yeah, that's what I'm listening to. What about you, Ashton?
Well, I kind of explained this on our last Q&A, I think. I don't really listen to, like, you know, just an individual song. I either listen to an artist's entire work, or I make playlists that kind of have a bunch of songs in them with a common theme. So I have right now, like over the last month, I would say I've listened to a lot of Childish Gambino, I've listened to a lot of my pop punk playlist, which is just a playlist. It's got 41 songs on it that includes a bunch of like pop punk bands from the late 90s, early 2000s, like Yellow Card, We the Kings, The Cab, All American Rejects, Taking Back Sunday, Switchfoot, Paramore, Neon Trees, Matchbook Romance, All Time Low, Blink 182, Boys Like Girls, 30 Seconds to Mars, Reliant K, Sum 41, Fountains of Wayne, Lit, Cartel, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, Plain White Tees, Coheed and Cambria, Fall Out Boy, Chevelle, Head Automatica, Angels and Airwaves, and Rise Against. I have an entire playlist dedicated to just Blue Saraceno or Saraceno. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's the band that made Evil Ways and The River and just a bunch of other awesome music. And that playlist is almost 5 hours long. So I've never actually gotten all the way through it because I never have a full 5 hours where I'm okay with just sitting around listening to music the whole time. And then we've got a 2017 playlist, which has just a bunch of current recent songs that I enjoy to some degree or another. So on that, you've got more recently, I've added Attention by Charlie Puth, There's Nothing Holding Me Back by Shawn Mendes, The Way I Are by BB Rexa, New Rules by Dua Lipa, Moonlight by Grace Vanderwall, All Night by Kirsten, New Love by Oda, Perfect by Ed Sheeran, Sign of the Times by Harry Styles, Slow Hands by Niall Horan. I know, guys, I know, a couple former members of One Direction. I don't really care. Issues by Julia Michaels, DNA and Humble by Kendrick Lamar because Kendrick's a beast, and just a few other Redbone, Childish Gambino, Location by Khalid, a bunch of songs that I just kind of don't mind listening to that are current. And that's about it. And really, that's pretty much all I listen to musically. Otherwise, I just listen to podcasts. So there you go.
All right, next question.
Next question from Ben Jr., and this is what we were waiting for earlier. Full thoughts on Glow. I know this is intended for both of us, but I never watched Glow, so this is basically just a John question.
Are you okay if I go in depth with my
dude, go for it. Spoil away.
Yeah,
I
personally love it, and what's funny is that the show was made by some of the same people that have a hand in Orange is the New Black. And while Orange is the New Black, I actually thought that they had a stronger season. I know it's been getting panned a lot, but while that's kind of fallen off for me, again, because Wentworth is a million times better, Glow is amazing. I can't tell you how great it felt, guys, to watch it with my family and to have my inner wrestling nerd come out the way that it did and being able to explain to them like what they were doing, why this was significant and whatever. I love the characters. Like, I feel like everybody's likable, including, you know, like the promoter, the guy trying to get it all off the ground. I love that they actually got wrestling personalities everywhere from Johnny Mundo to Alex Riley to Brodus Clay, and apparently Carlito was even in it, which blew my fucking mind. I like that it's in an era where kayfabe was still at an all-time high, so this is before the internet, because I think you have so many like more narrative possibilities that way. You know, like, for example, one of the characters, even though she's not even a Muslim, I think she may be more Indian or maybe even something else entirely. I forget what her ethnicity was. But they portrayed her as like this Muslim terrorist because there was a jacking recently, you know, an airplane jacking, and she gets spit on by an audience member when she's working a match. So, like, in our minds, right, it's like, oh my God, she's getting such heat. She's working the crowd. Like, you know, they might jump over the guardrail and try something. And yet she's rightfully like stunned and terrified because it's like, oh my God, they hate me this much. Like, what the fuck is even happening? So yeah, I really appreciate the narrative possibilities that this still being the world of kayfabe opens up. And yeah, I actually was able to give my thoughts without really being too specific, because I really can't wait for Ashton to watch it. I personally thought it was a great look into the world of pro wrestling that didn't get too serious, but serious enough when it needed to be. And I love the conflicts that I think could potentially arise for the second season, which I hope happens, because my God, was this show wonderful. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Glow. Absolutely recommend it. If you're not watching it, you are missing out for sure. So get on it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I basically tuned out all of that. So we can move on. I haven't been properly spoiled. And we've got a fourth and final question from Ben Jr. top 10 favorite WWE segments thus far in 2017.
Top 10. You want to do what we usually do with these and kind of like alternate?
Yep, we'll do 5 each and come up with like a master top 10 list by each of us dedicating 5 to it. So I'll start Festival of Friendship.
Okay, Seth Rollins' contract signing, or like waiver signing, I guess, with Triple H. I thought that was very well done on Rollins' end, so I'll say
All
that.
right. Seth Rollins apologizing to Dean Ambrose and then asking him to hit him in the back to get back at him and then forgive him.
Oh, this personally would be my number one if I was doing the top 10 on my own. Samoa Joe choking out Paul Heyman. That was
nice. Great. See, and this would be my number one if I was making an individual list. Braun Strowman throwing Roman around on a stretcher and not being finished with him.
Yes, yes. How many does that make, Ashton? I feel like we're kind of breezing through these.
4.
4. Damn, we still got a ways to go.
It might be 5. It might be 5 because I said Festival of Friendship. Then we said the 2 Rollins segments. Then you said Joe. I said Braun. So that is 5.
Okay, so then 6. I would say the segment where Miz gets faked out by Dean Ambrose and he breaks the grandfather clock. I thought that was pretty well done.
That was good. Man. I'm trying to think of like pre-Superstar Shakeup SmackDown segments because SmackDown was shit. Randy Orton burns down Bray Wyatt's compound.
Yes, that was so good. You're right.
We're up to 7.
7. Let me think of 8. God damn. You know, I hate to keep going to this feud, but I feel like they did a lot of good stuff. Samoa Joe choking out Brock Lesnar, I thought was really well done. So I'm going to say that as well.
Okay. How about... Oh, man, this is getting harder now.
It is.
I mean, it's segment, but I'm sure it can be like an overarching umbrella thing. Toto Bella's bullshit.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. No, what? No, that doesn't count, does it? So I can't do that.
Do we want to just say the Fashion Files as number 10?
Yeah, are we at the final one? Then yeah, Fashion Files. All things Fashion Files. They have been killing it for sure. And if not that, then I would say as an alternate, the rap battle between New Day and Usos, because Usos fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Awesome. All right. We're down to Alex Foster. We've got 4 questions, and then we're going to close this out. First question from Alex Foster. If Captain Ginyu uses his ability to switch bodies with someone on Gotenks, and then the fusion timer runs out, what happens?
Never-ending agony.
I was going to say we find out what 2 entities would have to fuse in order to create Captain Ginyu.
Yeah, exactly. So,
because we've never seen anything like that. That would be like reverse fusion. Like, I don't think it would literally just like split him in half. I think we would get like 2 smaller people who would have to fuse in order to look like and act like and basically just be Captain Ginyu.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I did think he would be like split in half, which is why I said never-ending agony at first. So that just sounds like something would go horrendously wrong. So yeah, it's the best.
I mean, realistically, if they were doing some kind of an actual thing like that in DBZ, they would probably work something into the canon where Captain Ginyu can only switch places with a single entity. He can't use that ability on an entity that is being inhabited by multiple entities.
Right, yeah. Because yeah, on the show it's only like one body at a time.
Yeah.
And then and then that's how Goku defeats him, because he's about to use the ray on Vegeta and inhabit his body, but then Goku like throws a frog to intercept the beam. So now Ginyu's consciousness is in that frog, and the frog's consciousness is in Ginyu's body, and that's how Ginyu gets defeated.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right, second question. What philosophy works would you like Samoa Joe to read to you as a bedtime story in his cadence?
You go first on this one because we kind of hashed it out.
Communist Manifesto.
I actually am envious because he's not even the philosophy buff, and I feel like his answer is so much better than anything I could give. You know what? I'm going to give 2 things. One from a guy that I know is a philosopher, or at least a political philosopher, and then one from a guy that wasn't necessarily a philosopher but wrote a philosophical work. I will say The Prince by Machiavelli. And then definitely my number one, which again, it's a philosophical work, which is what Foster asked about, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, because Joe even quoted it recently in a tweet in his feud with Lesnar. So him reading it, I think is pretty badass.
That's such a better answer than the Communist Manifesto, too.
I still think the way the Communist Manifesto is written in Joe's like menacing voice, especially that first sentence, there's a specter haunting Europe, and that specter is communism. Like, it gives me chills thinking about Joe answering it. So I still love your answer. But yeah, Art of War is what I'd have to go with.
Nice. All right, third question. This is really interesting, and I really have to think about this. Has John Cena ever lost a match you thought he should have won? And you know what? Now that I think about it, I actually do have an answer for this. Do you?
Gee, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I feel like Cena's always kind of won the big matches that he should have. Maybe whatever you say, though, I'll agree with enough to co-sign. So what did you think of?
I thought of the big, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, when Alberto Del Rio made his surprise return to the WWE at Hell in a Cell 2015 and beat Cena with a super kick. There's no way that should have happened. Cena should have won that, and Del Rio never should have come back.
Yeah, you know what? I can actually, when you put it that way, I can't think of a better answer than that, honestly. So I think I will co-sign onto that. That's perfect. That's a perfect answer. So,
hooray!
Is this his last question, right? Because that was question number 3 from Alex Foster.
Fourth and final question from Alex Foster. What are your favorite dinosaurs?
Okay, now I feel like I adequately prepared for this, but maybe Ashton, now it could be your turn to kind of just be like, really? That's what you picked? I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to pronounce it the way that it looks to me. It's a, wait. No, that's how I'm seeing it come up. Wait, let me just check something real quick before I say it. We can almost do a drum roll for this shit. Trudon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a bird-like dinosaur, and the reason why I picked it was that I did a very randomized search for most intelligent dinosaurs, and this one kept coming up because it has a smaller body, but an unusually large brain for its small frame. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
That's a good choice, though. I like that, and I love the reason you came up for it, too. Yeah, Trudon is a theropod, so he's basically like a pre-raptor. Like, he was a raptor before raptors really came into their prime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see, this is why it should have been an Ashton-specific question, because this guy adores dinosaurs. Like, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I do. I love dinosaurs. But if I had to answer my favorite, I mean, he did say dinosaurs, like multiple. So easy. I'm just going to name a few that I love. Therizinosaurus is amazing. It basically looks like a giant anteater with Freddy Krueger claws, basically, is what I'm trying to get at, because he's got like these like long 3-foot nails or claws sticking out of its hands. And I mean, obviously they could be used for self-defense, but apparently they were primarily used to strip foliage, because it was actually an herbivore, even though it had these like ridiculous long razor claws. Yeah,
that sounds badass, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, I love Therizinosaur. Obviously, most raptor types, most theropod types are awesome. But my favorite is actually one that most people don't know about. It's actually Microraptor. It's a very, very small raptor that lived in jungles and could actually glide from tree to tree. It actually had 4 wings with proper feathers on them. And well, not wings in the sense, well, it had 4 limbs, I should say, that had feathers. It didn't have wings. It had 4 legs, 4 limbs that it had like proper flight feathers on that allowed it to glide between trees. And that was like the big precursor for birds, because then eventually that sort of lineage, the theropods, we eventually got Archaeopteryx, which is the first known bird species that I'm aware of, and those eventually continued their development, and we got current birds, and birds of prey today are literally considered raptors. So, I mean, if we're talking dinosaurs, and technically since contemporary modern birds are dinosaurs, I can also say my favorite living animal right now, the cassowary.
I know it. I was trying to say that too.
Yeah, so that's another one. And just as like a random toss it out there, raptor that got in the air. It was, yeah, I mean, it was small. It was probably around the size of a chicken, pretty similar to the velociraptor. Velociraptors were probably closer to the size of a turkey, but still, yeah, they were on the smaller side. But yeah, they were raptors. They were proper, like had like the mouthful of teeth and the nasty claws and shit. And yeah, they were predators and they were awesome. And the documentary I've actually seen that featured them portrayed them as very colorful because of the feathers. So yeah, I mean, obviously only the males would be colorful, because we know today that in general with birds, females are typically grays and browns and blacks and whites and kind of boring, and the males are the ones that are all colorful and bright and vivid and really cool looking. So that would probably be similar in the case of the prehistoric raptor species. I can't really think of any other ones that I really want to point out, just because there are just so many and I don't want to waste our time too much here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pull up Ark Survival Evolved data and just take a look at a picture and just kind of see if I can point anything out that I really like. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying animal of all time. Literally, this thing was a flying reptile the size of a giraffe.
Holy shit.
So think of a giraffe on all fours, a gigantic long-ass beak, and then give it webbing connecting the bottom of its feet to the tip of a wing, and it can fly, by the way, and that's the Quetzalcoatlus.
That sounds badass as hell.
Yeah, it's amazing. So... oh, and then of course Spinosaurus. I have a definite soft spot in my heart for the Spinosaurus, and not because of Jurassic Park 3, but actually because Spinosaurus was the first dinosaur that I've ever felt like Jurassic Park didn't do it justice. Because before Jurassic Park 3 came out, I was relatively ignorant to what dinosaurs actually looked like, so I just kind of believed the Jurassic Park was the end-all be-all. And then when Jurassic Park 3 came out, I actually did research on Spino, and they were off by quite a bit. And currently, back in like 2014, 2015, we actually found out more about how wrong they were about Spinosaurus. Turns out, first of all, it was mostly a water-based hunter. It mostly ate fish, so a pescatarian. It mostly ate fish, and it was in water most of its life. It was basically a prehistoric alligator, honestly, with a gigantic spine on its back, obviously. But yeah, man, that's why that's a big one. So yeah, Spinosaurus is the last one I'll mention. That's probably one that most people are also familiar with. So I'll end my dinosaur hysteria there, and we can end it completely because that was our last question. What do you think?
Sounds great to me, man. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. I mean, once again, another month, another Q&A where you guys deliver. As soon as we go off the air, I'll be putting up the pinned tweet for Q&A number 14. You guys already know the process. I am not doing that song and dance here. Besides, Ashton takes care of the outro. And great questions this month, guys. Let's see what you guys got for August. We'll be seeing you then. So, Ashton, with that, you can take us home.
All right. Well, we are done with this finally, and we actually managed to keep it under 3 hours, amazingly enough. I can actually tell you guys we had a few under 3 hour Q&As this year, but overall in the 12 that we've done, we've had I think 4 or 5 of them go over 3 hours, including the most recent one, which went 3 hours and over 30 minutes as well. So we kept it under 3 hours. We're good. And our next Q&A will be on Thursday, August. Come on, calendar work. Thursday, August 24th. So the day before my 27th. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Well, yeah, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. I turned 27 on August 25th. But regardless, it's actually going to be on Thursday, August 31st. The last day in August is going to be our Q&A day. So that's actually amazing because that's 6 weeks from now. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. No, it's 5. It's 5 weeks from now. Holy shit. I didn't think that was even possible. But yeah, 5 weeks from now on Thursday, August 31st, the last day in August, which is almost 2 full weeks after Takeover Brooklyn 3 and SummerSlam this year. Should be interesting. So make sure to get your questions in for that. I know we already have some questions from
James
somebody.
DM me questions already. I can tell you that.
Cliff, I think. Yeah, Cliff DM'd me questions as well. So we've already got 8 questions for August. So you guys might as well just get your shit in. You might as well. There's no reason not to. Plus, by then, we'll already have been completely finished with G1. We're probably, I don't even know what we're going to be doing as far as what content we're going to be changing for the fall. I know we're going to continue not covering Raw because why the hell would we during football season? But yeah, should be interesting. So guys, I mean, I think I'm going to close it out here. Check out the description. I know a lot of the people that are in chat right now are already patrons and already in the Discord. But for those of you that are in chat that are not already in the Discord, $3. And I want to say Monday is the last day for you to get your donation in for us to add you to the Discord for August so that you can actually be in there to discuss G1 and SummerSlam and take over Brooklyn with us beyond just what videos we put up on this channel. It's only $3 a month. You get access to the Discord. It's me, it's John, it's everyone else. We've got, Cliff and Paul and a bunch of other people in there that are kind of celebrities in the TWitWoW audience at this point. And it's a lot of fun. You can actually submit Q&A questions through Discord. And over time, if you want, you will be able to kind of add up the money that you donate on a monthly basis to the point that you'll be able to request a live reaction or a live reaction review combo from us. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we get more of those. I know we've got at least 1 or 2 more requests coming. Plus on Monday, which is again the last day to get your Patreon donation in before August so that we can add you to the Discord for August, we will be doing a live reaction review combo for the Women's Wrestling Revolution show, Revolutionary, which is a request from Jackie on Twitter. Should be a lot of fun. And I think that's about it. So tomorrow, we've got nothing. No recordings tomorrow whatsoever, but then Saturday and Sunday, we have G1. Monday, like I said, we've got that Women's Wrestling Revolution show, Revolutionary. And then we are back to the G1 grind after that. And of course, Tuesday and Wednesday, we also have SmackDown Live, NXT, Lucha Underground, all that stuff. Lots of fun. Hope you guys are able to stick around for as much of it as possible. We will see you there. And of course, remember to stay tuned.